Most roommate stories start with noise. Someone walking too loudly, someone leaving dishes in the sink, someone touching things that are not theirs. But the worst apartments are not the ones where something is obviously wrong. They are the ones where everyone sees it and still agrees to act normal. Tonight, these are 7 roommate horror stories about shared spaces, locked doors, missing things, and the quiet pressure of being the only person willing to say something is wrong. Comment your time and where you're watching from. And if you live with roommates, maybe check what everyone else is pretending not to notice. I knew something was wrong with that apartment because of a coffee mug. Not a scream, not a shadow, not a locked door, just a mug. And the way everyone kept telling me it didn't matter. I moved into the apartment in Denver at the end of October, when the mornings were already cold enough to make the windows sweat from the inside. It was a 3rd-floor unit in an old brick building near Colfax. Nothing special, nothing dangerous looking. Just old carpet in the hallway, thin walls, and a front door that stuck unless you pulled it toward you before turning the key. The rent was low for the area. That was the main reason I took it. I had just started a new job at a dental office downtown. I did not know many people in the city yet. I had enough saved for the deposit the first month and not much else. So, when Maya showed me the room and said the place was pretty chill, I wanted to believe her. Maya had the biggest room. She worked from home and seemed to know everyone in the building. She talked fast, smiled often, and had a way of making every problem sound small before you even explained it. Kyle lived across from me. He was the kind of person who said things like, "Let's not make this awkward before anything was awkward." He handled the Wi-Fi bill, the trash schedule, and most of the group chat reminders. Aaron had the room at the end of the hall. I met him last. He came out of his room while I was carrying a box of towels. He was tall, pale, and wearing a black hoodie, even though the apartment was warm. Maya said he worked nights at a warehouse, so I probably would not see him much. Aaron nodded once. He did not offer to help. That did not bother me, not really. Some people are quiet. I told myself I preferred quiet roommates anyway. The apartment itself looked normal. The kitchen was cramped but clean enough. There were magnets on the fridge from places I had never been. A cracked plastic dish rack beside the sink. A whiteboard near the pantry with chores written in different colors. Maya gave me the basic tour. Top shelf in the fridge was hers. Bottom drawer was shared. Left side of the freezer was Kyle's. Aaron mostly ate takeout. Plates and cups were communal unless someone labeled something. "We're not strict," she said. "Just don't be weird about little stuff." I remember that sentence because she said it with a laugh. At the time, it sounded friendly. I spent most of that first evening unpacking. My room smelled like dust and old paint. The window faced the alley where the dumpster lid slammed whenever the wind caught it. Around midnight, I made tea in the kitchen because I was too wired to sleep. That was when I unpacked the mug. It was dark blue, almost navy. It had a small crack running through the handle near the bottom, the kind of crack that made people say you should throw it away. But I never did. I had owned it since college. It had survived 3 apartments, 2 breakups, and a move across state lines. It was not valuable. It was just mine. I washed it, dried it, and put it on the second shelf of the cabinet beside the sink. There were maybe 8 other mugs in there. Most were mismatched. One said "World's Okayest Roommate." One had a faded Colorado Rockies logo. One was shaped like a cat. Mine stood out because it was plain. Before I went to bed, I checked the cabinet once more. I do not know why. New apartment habit maybe. Trying to remember where I had put things. The mug was there. The next morning it was gone. I noticed because I woke up early for my first Monday commute from the new place. The apartment was still dark. Nobody else was up. The kitchen light made that low electric buzz old fluorescent bulbs make before they fully warm up. I opened the cabinet. The blue mug was not on the second shelf. I moved the Rockies mug, then the cat mug, then a stack of bowls someone had shoved too far back. Nothing. I checked the dishwasher, even though I had not heard it run. Empty. I checked the sink. 2 forks, 1 plate, no mug. For a minute I just stood there with the cabinet door open. It was such a small thing that I felt stupid caring about it. Then Maya came in wearing pajama pants and holding her phone. She stopped when she saw me looking through the cabinet. "Lose something." "My mug," I said. "The blue one. I put it here last night." She leaned around me and looked into the cabinet for maybe half a second. "Maybe it's in the dishwasher." I checked. "Maybe you unpacked it somewhere else." I almost said I knew where I had put it. But I was new, and she was smiling. And the last thing I wanted was to become the roommate who made a big deal before the first full day. So I said, "Yeah, maybe." Kyle walked in while I was making coffee in a paper cup I found near the microwave. Maya told him casually that my mug had gone missing. Kyle opened the fridge and said, "This apartment eats things." Maya laughed. "You'll get used to it." Aaron did not come out of his room. Not then, but as I left for work, I passed his door at the end of the hall. It was open just a crack, and from inside I heard ice shifting in a cup, slowly, like someone was stirring something they were not drinking. I tried to forget about it at work. That should have been easy. People lose mugs, roommates borrow things, kitchens get messy. I kept telling myself that while I sat at the front desk of the dental office, smiling at patients and pretending I was not thinking about the sound I had heard from Aaron's room. Ice shifting in a cup, slowly, not clinking once, not the normal sound of someone picking up a drink. It had sounded patient. That was the word that kept coming back to me. Patient. Around lunch, I opened the apartment group chat. It was called Third Floor Survivors with a little ghost emoji after it. Maya had made it before I moved in. The older messages were normal. Trash reminders, rent split. Someone asking who used the last of the oat milk. I typed a message and deleted it twice before sending it. "Hey, did anyone maybe use my blue mug this morning? No big deal, just trying to find it." I added the "no big deal" because I did not want to sound annoyed. Maya replied in less than 10 seconds. "Maybe check the dishwasher. Sometimes stuff gets moved around." I stared at the message. I had already told her I checked the dishwasher. Before I could type that, Kyle replied, "Shared kitchen problems, LOL, things migrate." Then Maya sent another message. "This apartment eats things. You'll get used to it." Same sentence, same exact sentence she had said that morning. I know people repeat themselves. I know that is not strange by itself. But seeing it typed out made my stomach tighten in a way I could not explain. Aaron never answered. That evening I came home around 6:30. Maya was on the couch with her laptop open. Kyle was cooking pasta. Aaron's door was shut. The apartment smelled like garlic and wet cardboard. Someone had taken out the recycling but left the full bag leaning beside the front door. The TV was on, though showing a rerun of some home renovation show no one seemed to be watching. I went straight to the kitchen cabinet. The mug was still gone. I checked the dishwasher again, empty. I checked the sink, nothing. I checked the trash, carefully lifting the lid with 2 fingers. Coffee grounds, eggshells, a paper towel with red sauce on it, no blue ceramic. Kyle glanced over from the stove. "Still looking for that mug." "Yeah," I said. "I know it sounds dumb. I mean, it's probably around. I put it in that cabinet last night." He stirred the pasta without looking at me. "People put stuff wherever in here. It's not really a system." Maya called from the couch. "We're pretty relaxed about dishes." "I get that," I said. And I did. That was the thing. Everything they said sounded reasonable if you only listened to the words. But neither of them seemed curious. Not even a little. If someone had lost a mug in my apartment, I would have at least opened a cabinet. I would have said, "That's weird." I would have helped look for 10 seconds. They acted like helping me look would make it real. So I stopped asking. For the next 2 days, I used one of the communal mugs. The cat-shaped one first, then the Rockies one. I tried not to think about the blue mug. I tried not to notice every small thing in the kitchen. But I noticed anyway. The little spoon I used for coffee kept turning up in the wrong drawer. Not just any wrong drawer. The drawer under the microwave where Kyle kept batteries, tape, and takeout menus. My coffee canister was open one morning, the lid placed upside down beside it. I never left it open. I am particular about that because I hate stale coffee. A folded paper towel appeared under the coffee maker. clean, dry, folded into a square, like someone had wiped something up and then decided to leave the evidence arranged neatly. When I asked if someone had spilled coffee, Maya smiled without looking up from her laptop. Probably just old counter water. Old counter water. That phrase bothered me more than it should have. On Thursday night, I came home late because the office manager had asked me to stay and close. The apartment was quiet when I got in. The lights were off, except for the small bulb above the stove. I liked the place better at night before everyone started talking. I set my bag in my room. Then I went to the kitchen for water. The communal mugs were in the cabinet, all of them, except there was a new space on the second shelf. A clean, empty space about the width of my blue mug. I stood there longer than I should have. Then I heard a door open behind me. It was Kyle. He came out of the bathroom rubbing his eyes. "You good?" "Yeah," I said. He looked past me at the open cabinet. "You're still on the mug thing." The way he said it made something in me go cold. Not angry, not surprised, tired. Like this was a problem I had been causing for months instead of something that had happened 3 days ago. "I just think it's strange," I said. Kyle sighed softly. Look, I get it. Moving is stressful. New place, new people. Stuff feels off at first." I closed the cabinet. "I'm not stressed about the mug." "Then maybe let it be a mug." He said it gently. That made it worse. Because gentle people can make you feel unreasonable without ever raising their voice. I went back to my room and locked the door. I remember standing there for a second with my hand still on the knob, listening. Kyle did not go back to his room right away. I could hear him in the kitchen, not opening cabinets, not drinking water, just standing there. Then very quietly he said something. I could not make out the first few words, only the end. "She's still asking." I did not sleep much after that. The next morning I woke up early and checked the group chat again. No new messages, but the chat name had changed. It no longer said third floor survivors. It said house stuff only. No emoji, no joke, no explanation. I typed, "Did someone change the chat name?" Then I erased it. I already knew how they would answer. They would say it was not a big deal. They would say I was reading into things. They would say the apartment was pretty chill. And somehow, by the end of the conversation, I would be the strange thing in the room. I did not sleep much that night, not because I was scared yet. That came later. At that point, I was mostly embarrassed. That is the part I still hate admitting. I was embarrassed over my own coffee mug. I kept lying there in the dark, telling myself that normal adults did not lose sleep over something that small. Normal adults did not replay a conversation from a kitchen like it was evidence in a police report, but I kept seeing Maya's face. The quick smile, the way she had said this apartment eats things, like it was cute, like it was something I was supposed to accept. I tried to make myself laugh about it. I really did. I told myself every shared apartment had little problems. People used the wrong shelf. People forgot what belonged to them. People drank someone else's almond milk and said sorry 3 days later. That was roommate life. That was what everyone told you before you moved in with strangers. Be flexible. Pick your battles. Do not be the difficult one. So I decided the mug was not a battle. I decided that before I ever saw it again. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up thirsty. My room was at the end of the hallway across from the bathroom. The kitchen was down the hall, past Kyle's room, then Maya's, then Aaron's. Aaron's door was always closed. He worked nights, or at least that was what Maya told me. I had only seen him a few times since moving in. He was quiet in a way that made it hard to tell if he was shy or just not interested in being known. The apartment was almost completely dark. The only light came from the microwave clock in the kitchen and the thin orange glow under Aaron's door. I remember noticing that because I thought he was out. That was what Maya had said earlier. Aaron's usually gone until 4, but his light was on. I walked slowly because the floorboards in that apartment had a way of sounding louder at night. Even a careful step made a little dry pop under the carpet. I had a glass in my hand. Not my mug, just one of the cheap glasses from the cabinet. When I reached the kitchen, I filled it from the sink. Then I heard something from behind me. Not a loud sound, just the soft scrape of fabric against wood. I turned and looked down the hallway. Aaron's door was open, only a few inches. I know I should have gone back to my room. That would have been the normal thing to do. But the hallway light was off, and the orange glow from his room spilled across the floor, just enough for me to see part of his desk through the opening. And on that desk was my mug. I did not move for a few seconds. My first thought was stupidly practical. So it was Aaron, not scary, not mysterious, just Aaron. He probably had taken it by accident. Maybe he liked the size. Maybe he was half asleep and did not think about it. Maybe he had a mug just like it, and I was wrong. Then I looked closer. It was definitely mine. Dark blue, small, slightly uneven around the rim, a little faded spot near the base where the glaze had worn off after years of washing. And the crack on the handle, except the crack was not bare anymore. There was a bandage wrapped around it. A regular skin-colored adhesive bandage, the kind you put on a cut finger. It had been wound around the handle carefully, with the padded white center pressed exactly over the crack. I stood there with the glass of water in my hand, staring at it through a 3-inch gap in Aaron's door. The mug was sitting beside his bed, not on a pile of dirty dishes, not near a laptop, not next to a coffee maker, or anything that would make it feel normal. It was on a small wooden table beside his pillow. There was water inside it, clear water, filled almost to the top. I could see the surface catching the orange light. That bothered me more than if it had been coffee. I do not know why. Maybe because coffee would have explained something. Coffee would have made it a mistake, a tired man grabbing the wrong cup before work. But a mug full of water beside a bed felt different. It felt chosen, kept. I heard movement inside the room. A slow shift, like someone turning over in bed. I stepped back so fast that water spilled over my fingers. The door did not open wider. No one came out. But from inside Aaron's room, I heard him breathe. Not snore, not sleep. Breathe. Awake. I went back to my room and locked the door. Then I stood there in the dark listening. Nothing happened. No footsteps came down the hall. No knock. No voice asking why I had been staring into his room. The apartment stayed quiet. That almost made it worse, because by morning I had enough time to convince myself that maybe I had crossed a line. Maybe I had been the strange one. Maybe seeing my mug in his room did not mean anything. Maybe the bandage was just some weird joke. Maybe he had noticed the crack and tried to fix it. Maybe he was awkward, not dangerous. I said all of that to myself while getting dressed. I said it again while brushing my teeth. I said it while standing in the kitchen at 7:15, waiting for coffee to brew in the machine that everyone shared. Maya came in first. She was wearing a big gray sweatshirt and had her hair tied on top of her head. She smiled like nothing in the world had ever made her uncomfortable. "Morning," she said. "Morning. You find your mug?" She said it before I did. That was the first moment I felt cold that day. I looked at her. She was reaching into the cabinet for a bowl, not looking at me. I said, "What?" "Your mug," she said. "The blue one. You were looking for it, right?" I had not mentioned it again since the group chat. Not out loud. Not to her. I said, "Yeah, I saw it last night." She paused with the bowl in her hand. "Where?" "In Aaron's room." That should have changed her expression, even a little. Surprise, embarrassment, annoyance, anything. Instead, she gave a tiny laugh through her nose, like I had said something slightly awkward at a dinner party. "Oh," she said. "He probably grabbed it half asleep. It was next to his bed." "Yeah, he drinks water at night." The handle had a Band-Aid on it. Maya set the bowl on the counter. For the first time, she looked directly at me. It was not an angry look. I almost wish it had been. It was patient. Too patient. Like she was already calming me down from something I had not finished saying. She said Aaron does little repairs like that. He's just kinda like that. A Band-Aid is not a repair. Well, no, obviously, but you know what I mean. I did not know what she meant. I said he took something from my shelf and kept it in his room. Maya looked toward the hallway. Her voice dropped. "Can we not make this a whole thing before work?" That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Not because it was cruel, because it sounded rehearsed, like she had said it before. Kyle came in a minute later with wet hair and a towel around his neck. He looked from me to Maya, then into the coffee machine. "Everything good?" Maya answered before I could. Mug situation. Kyle closed his eyes for half a second. Not like he was confused, like he was tired. He said, "Oh, just oh." I turned to him. "Did you know Aaron had it?" Kyle opened the fridge and took out a carton of orange juice. "No." But his voice was flat. Not surprised. I said he had it in his bedroom. Kyle poured juice into a glass. He did not look at me. Probably accidental. It had water in it. People put water in mugs. It had a Band-Aid wrapped around the handle. Kyle finally looked up, and then he looked at Maya. It was quick. Less than a second. But I saw it. Maya shook her head slightly. Not at me. At him. Like a warning. Kyle said, "Look, I'm not trying to be dismissive, but shared apartments get weird when people start keeping score over little stuff." I stared at him. Little stuff. I just mean we all use things sometimes. I do not use things from people's bedrooms. He sighed. No one is saying you do. That was when Aaron walked in. I heard his door open before I saw him. He came down the hallway wearing black sweatpants and a faded green shirt. His hair was messy. His face looked pale in the morning light, but not in a sick way. More like he had been awake for too long. He stopped in the kitchen doorway. Maya went very still. Kyle looked down at his juice. Aaron looked at me. Then he said, "You saw the mug." Not what mug. Not, oh, sorry. You saw the mug. The way he said it made my throat tighten. I forced myself to sound normal. "Yeah, it's mine." Aaron nodded once. I thought it was one of ours. Maya stepped in immediately. "See, there you go. Easy mistake." But Aaron had not apologized. He had not offered to return it. He was still standing in the doorway looking at me with the same dull, calm expression. I said, "Can I have it back?" The kitchen went quiet. It was such a simple question. That is what I still come back to. Can I have it back? There was nothing aggressive about it, nothing dramatic, nothing paranoid. But Kyle shifted his weight like I had raised my voice. Maya pressed her lips together. Aaron kept looking at me. Then he said, "Sure." He turned and walked back down the hall. No one spoke while he was gone. The coffee machine made that little choking sound it made before finishing a pot. Outside the kitchen window, a garbage truck backed up somewhere in the alley, beeping in slow intervals. Maya suddenly smiled. She said, "See, solved." I did not answer. Aaron came back holding the mug by the rim. The Band-Aid was still wrapped around the handle. It looked damp now. He set it on the counter in front of me. There was still water inside. Not much. Maybe half an inch. But enough that when he set it down, it moved against the ceramic with a soft little sound. I looked at the water, then at Aaron. He said I washed it. It was not washed. There was a faint ring inside just below the rim. A pale mark, like something had been sitting in the water and removed. I did not want to touch it. Maya said, "Are we good now?" I looked at her. Her smile was still there, but it had flattened. Kyle said, "I really don't want this to become a house meeting thing." That was the second time someone had said that. A house meeting thing. Like the worst possible outcome was not Aaron taking things from my shelf. It was me making everyone discuss it. I picked up the mug by the body, avoiding the handle. The ceramic was cold. Too cold for something that had been in a bedroom all night. I carried it to the sink and dumped the water out. No one moved. The water went down the drain. For 1 second, I thought I saw something pale slide against the metal strainer. Something thin, like a strip of wet paper. Then it was gone. I rinsed the mug 3 times. I peeled the Band-Aid off the handle with my fingernails and dropped it into the trash. Underneath it, the crack looked darker than before. Almost dirty. Aaron watched me the entire time. I could feel him doing it. When I put the mug on the drying rack, Maya let out a tiny breath. "Great," she said. "All fixed." I hated that sentence. I hated the relief in it. Not because the problem was fixed, because everyone had agreed what the problem was. The problem was me noticing. I went to work that morning and spent the whole day distracted. I kept thinking about the way Aaron had said, "You saw the mug." Not "you found it." Not "I had it." "You saw it." I tried to let it go. That was the part I was good at. I had spent most of my adult life learning how to make small problems smaller. Bad roommates, weird coworkers, men who stood too close at bus stops, Friends who said someone was harmless because admitting otherwise would make the room uncomfortable. So I told myself the mug was done. Aaron had returned it. Maya had smiled. Kyle had decided there was no need for a house meeting. Everyone had moved on. That meant I was supposed to move on too. I did not use the mug again. I washed it twice more when I came home from work, then put it in the back of my closet inside a small box with some winter gloves. I did not want it in the kitchen. I did not want to see it beside the plates. I did not want to give anyone another reason to say I was being dramatic. The next morning I stopped at Target before work. I bought a new mug. White, plain, too plain honestly. It had tiny black letters on the side that said good morning. I picked it because no one could confuse it with anything else. When I brought it home, Maya was in the living room folding laundry on the couch. She looked at the red Target bag in my hand and gave me a small smile. "Retail therapy," she asked. "Something like that," I said. She kept folding a towel. Then she said, "You know, Aaron really didn't mean anything by it." I stopped near the hallway. I did not want another conversation. "I know," I said. "He gets attached to objects sometimes." The words were so strange that I thought I misheard her. Attached. Maya looked up. "Not like that. I just mean he notices things. Details, cracks, chips, stuff other people throw away." I held the bag tighter. "That doesn't make me feel better." Her smile faded a little. "I'm trying to help you understand him." I did not answer. Kyle came out of his room, then saw us standing there, and immediately looked tired. "Everything okay?" Maya said, "We're fine." She said it too fast. I took the new mug into my room and put it on my desk. Then I closed my door, locked it, checked the knob twice. That night I used the white mug for tea. I washed it in the bathroom sink and dried it with a towel from my room. I did not take it to the kitchen. I did not leave it anywhere shared. Before bed, I set it on my bookshelf between two paperbacks. I remember that clearly. I remember because I stood there for a second looking at it and felt stupid. It was just a mug. Again. I woke up at 6:40 to my alarm. The first thing I did was look at the bookshelf. The white mug was gone. For a while, I just sat up in bed. I did not scream. I did not run to the door. I did not even feel scared right away. I felt blank. My bedroom door was still locked. The chair I kept angled under the handle was still in place. My window was shut. Nothing else looked touched. Only the mug was missing. I checked under the bed, behind the desk, inside the laundry basket. I opened drawers I knew I had not opened. I checked the closet, the box with the old blue mug, the floor behind my shoes. The box was empty. The blue mug was gone too. That was when my hands started shaking. I went into the hallway. The apartment smelled like coffee, but no one was talking. The living room was dim. Morning light sat flat against the blinds. In the kitchen, Maya stood by the counter in her work clothes. Kyle sat at the table with his phone in his hand. Aaron leaned against the sink. All three of them looked at me when I walked in. Not surprised, not confused, just waiting. The blue mug was in the sink. My blue mug. The Band-Aid was back on the handle, soaked through and peeling at one edge. Inside the mug was a folded piece of paper. I did not move toward it at first. Maya said morning. Her voice was soft, too soft. I looked at Kyle. He would not meet my eyes. Aaron stared at the sink. I said, "How did that get in there?" No one answered. I said it again. "How did that get in there?" Maya sighed. "Can we not do this before everyone has to leave?" Something inside me went very still. "Do what?" She looked genuinely tired. This, the tone, the accusations. I laughed once. It came out wrong. My mug disappeared from my locked room. Kyle finally looked up. "Are you sure you didn't move it?" The question made the whole room tilt. I stared at him. My door was locked. "Okay," he said carefully, "but you've been stressed since you moved in." Maya nodded like that was kind. New places can make people feel weird. Aaron said nothing. I stepped to the sink and took the paper out of the mug. It was damp at the edges. I unfolded it slowly. There were only 4 words. Don't make them choose. I read it 3 times before I understood that no one was going to ask what it said. No one leaned closer. No one said, "What the hell is that?" No one looked scared. Kyle put his phone face down on the table. Maya reached for her keys. Aaron finally looked at me. His expression was empty, not threatening, not guilty, just calm, like he already knew what would happen next. I held up the paper. Did one of you write this? Maya closed her eyes. Please don't start. That was when I understood. Not everything, not even close, but enough. They were not confused. They were not dismissing it because they did not believe me. They were dismissing it because they had already decided what believing me would cost. Kyle stood up and pushed his chair in. You should probably get ready for work, he said. The sentence was normal. That was what made it horrible. I looked from him to Maya to Aaron. 3 people, 1 kitchen, 1 small piece of wet paper in my hand, and somehow I was the only problem in the room. I did not move out that day. I wish I could say I did. But I had signed the lease 2 weeks earlier. I did not have enough money for another deposit. My parents were across the country. My friends thought I was lucky to have found rent that cheap in Denver. So I folded the paper. I put it in my purse. I went back to my room. And before I closed the door, I heard Maya whisper behind me. Not loud, not meant for me. But I heard it. She said she'll stop. And Aaron answered. They usually do. The 4th toothbrush showed up 3 days after I moved in. That was what bothered me. Not the pipes in the wall. Not the closet near the bathroom that stayed locked. Not the way the hallway light sometimes flickered when no one was near the switch. The toothbrush. Because there were 3 of us. And 4 toothbrushes. I had found the apartment through a Facebook housing group for students near campus. It was in Ohio, about 15 minutes from the university, if traffic was good, and the rent was almost $200 cheaper than anything else I had seen. That should have made me more careful. But I was 22. I had a part-time job at a grocery store, a used Honda with a check engine light, and 1 week before my old lease ended. Cheap mattered more than comfortable. The apartment was on the 2nd floor of a narrow brick building behind a laundromat. Nothing about it looked dangerous, just old, thin carpet, beige walls, a kitchen that always smelled faintly like microwave popcorn. My roommates were Brandon and Eli. Brandon was the first one I met. He was loud in a friendly way. The kind of guy who smiled before he knew what you were saying, just so the room would not feel awkward. He helped carry one of my boxes upstairs, then told me the place was pretty chill, as long as nobody gets weird. I remember that sentence now. Nobody gets weird. Eli was different, quieter, cleaner. He was in a nursing program and kept his shoes lined up beside his bedroom door. His dishes never stayed in the sink. His towel was always folded over the rack in the bathroom exactly in half. That was why the toothbrush bothered me. The bathroom was small, 1 sink, 1 mirror cabinet, 1 plastic cup beside the faucet where everyone kept their toothbrushes. Brandon's was red, Eli's was white, mine was black. The system was simple enough that I noticed the blue one immediately. It was there on my 3rd morning, leaning against mine inside the cup. Dark blue handle, white bristles, wet. Not damp from steam, wet like someone had just used it and put it back without shaking it off. I stood in the bathroom doorway for a while looking at it. Then I called out, "Hey, is this blue toothbrush someone's?" Brandon answered from the kitchen. "Old tenant, probably." He said it too fast. I walked out holding my towel. It's wet. Brandon was pouring cereal. He did not look up. Bathroom stuff gets wet. Eli was at the table with a textbook open in front of him. He looked at the cup in my hand for half a second, then went back to reading. "Just throw it out if it bothers you," he said. That should have been the end of it. I know that. A normal person finds an old toothbrush. A normal person throws it away. A normal person does not stand there waiting for other people to admit that it is strange. So, I took the blue toothbrush out with 2 fingers. Brandon laughed. "Dude, you're acting like it bit you." I smiled because that was what you do when you are new. You smile. You show people you can take a joke. You prove you are not difficult. I dropped the toothbrush into the bathroom, trash washed my hands longer than I needed to, and left for work. All day I told myself it was nothing. An old tenant. A gross mistake. A cheap apartment with leftover cheap apartment problems. But when I got home that night, Eli was cleaning the bathroom sink. Not casually. Scrubbing. The cup was empty beside him. All 3 regular toothbrushes were laid out on a paper towel. Red, white, black, no blue. I said, everything okay? Eli did not look at me. Yeah, why are the toothbrushes out? He rinsed the sink once, then again, just cleaning. His voice was flat. I waited for him to say more. He did not. Brandon passed behind me in the hall and clapped a hand on my shoulder. See, he said. Problem solved. But Eli's hands were shaking, only a little, just enough for the white toothbrush to tap against the porcelain when he picked it up. That was the first time I thought Brandon was not joking because he thought it was funny. He was joking because Eli needed him to. The next morning, the blue toothbrush was back. Not in the trash, not on the sink, in the cup. It was leaning against mine, again bristles touching bristles, like someone had put them together on purpose. I stood there barefoot on the cold tiles staring at it. For a few seconds I did nothing. Then I opened the bathroom trash. Empty. The plastic liner had been replaced. I checked under the sink, behind the toilet, inside the shower. I do not know what I expected to find. Maybe the old liner, maybe proof that someone had taken the toothbrush out and cleaned up after themselves. There was nothing, just the blue toothbrush in the cup, wet again. I carried it into the kitchen between 2 pieces of toilet paper. Brandon was making toast. Eli was measuring coffee grounds into the machine. I held it up. It's back. Brandon turned around and smiled. Not surprised, just smiled. Guess it missed you? I looked at Eli. He did not smile. He looked at the toothbrush, then at the floor near my feet. I threw this out yesterday, I said. Brandon shrugged. Maybe somebody took it out by mistake. Who takes a toothbrush out of the trash by mistake? He pointed at me with the butter knife. That tone right there, that's how apartments get weird. I almost laughed. Apartments get weird. As if the apartment had not already become weird before I said anything. Eli poured water into the coffee maker. Just throw it away outside, he said. That was all. No question. No concern. No, yeah, that is strange. Just a solution that made the problem mine again. So I did it. I put on shoes, took the toothbrush downstairs, and walked it to the dumpster behind the building. I pushed it deep under a bag of pizza boxes and old takeout containers. Then I stood there for a second looking around the alley like I expected someone to be watching. No one was there. When I came back upstairs, Brandon was in the living room. He looked over the back of the couch. Feel better? I said, not really. He laughed, but Eli sitting at the table did not. That night I kept my bedroom door locked. I did not want to admit that to myself, but I did. I even put my backpack against the bottom of the door just so I would hear it move if someone came in. Nothing happened. No footsteps, no bathroom sink, no hallway light. I slept badly anyway. At 6:30 I went to the bathroom before class. The blue toothbrush was not in the cup. For 1 second I felt stupidly relieved. Then I saw the second cup. It was sitting on the corner of the sink where the soap dispenser usually went. A small clear plastic cup, not ours. Inside it was the blue toothbrush, standing alone. On the side of the cup was a piece of masking tape. One letter had been written on it in black marker. N. My first initial. I did not touch it. I backed out of the bathroom and called for Brandon. He came down the hall in basketball shorts, rubbing one eye. What? I pointed into the bathroom. He leaned in. For the first time, the smile left his face. Only for a second. Then it came back. Okay, that's weird. Thank you, I said. He held up a hand. I said weird, not serial killer weird. Eli appeared behind him. His hair was wet, like he had already showered. He looked at the cup, then at me. Did you put that there? I stared at him. Why would I do that? I don't know. You think I labeled a toothbrush for myself? Eli's jaw tightened. I think you've been focused on it since yesterday. Brandon stepped between us slightly. Let's just not make the bathroom a crime scene. I looked from him to Eli. Neither of them looked at the cup anymore. That bothered me more than the cup itself. They had both seen it. They had both understood, even if only for a second, that something was wrong. Then they chose not to stay there. By that afternoon, more small things had changed. My toothpaste had been squeezed from the middle, even though I always rolled it from the end. My towel was damp when I came back from class. There was a thin smear across the mirror lower than my face, like someone shorter had wiped steam away with their palm. And the bathroom smelled like mint. Not normal toothpaste mint, sharp mint, too clean. like someone had brushed for a long time and tried to erase the evidence with mouthwash. I asked Brandon if he had used my toothpaste. He did not even pause the video game he was playing. Nope. I asked Eli if he had moved my towel. He closed his textbook. Slowly. You need to stop asking us things like that. Things are being touched. It's a shared bathroom. My towel was wet. Maybe it didn't dry. It was dry when I left. Eli looked at me then, really looked, and his voice went quieter. Don't make the bathroom weird. I wanted to say it already was. I wanted to ask why he sounded scared, but Brandon called from the living room before I could. Bro, let it go. So I did, not because I believed them, because I understood the rule now. The blue toothbrush was allowed to keep coming back. My things were allowed to be touched. The cup was allowed to have my initial on it. But if I kept pointing at it, I was the one making the apartment uncomfortable. I waited until both of them went to bed before I set up my phone. It felt ridiculous while I was doing it. That was the worst part. I was crouched in the hallway at almost 1 a.m, hiding my phone inside a laundry basket, like I was trying to catch a raccoon, not whatever had been using our bathroom. I kept thinking about how Brandon would laugh if he saw me. I kept hearing Eli's voice. Don't make the bathroom weird. But the bathroom was already weird. The blue toothbrush had come back twice. My towel had been used. My toothpaste had been squeezed by someone else. There was a cup with my initial on it sitting beside the sink like a reserved seat. So, I opened the camera app, turned the brightness all the way down, and propped my phone between 2 shirts in the laundry basket. The angle was not perfect, but it showed the sink, the mirror, the cup, and most of the bathroom door. I pressed record and went back to my room. I locked the door. Then I sat on the bed and listened. For almost an hour, nothing happened. The apartment made its usual old building sounds. Pipes ticked in the wall. A car passed outside. Somewhere above us, someone dropped something heavy and then went quiet. At 2:13, I heard water. Not full pressure, not like someone washing their hands. Just a thin stream from the faucet turned on barely enough to make a steady sound. I did not get up. That is important. I stayed in my room. I know I did. I was sitting against the wall with my knees pulled up, staring at the dark line under my door. I remember checking the time on my old alarm clock because I did not want to unlock my phone and stop the recording. It said 2:13. Then came the brushing sound. Slow, even, too long. I sat there until it stopped. The faucet ran for a few more seconds. Then the bathroom light clicked off. I did not hear footsteps. Not toward Brandon's room, not toward Eli's, not toward mine. At 6:20, I got the phone. The battery was almost dead. My hands felt clumsy while I opened the video. I expected to see Brandon. I almost wanted to see Brandon. If it was Brandon, then it would be ugly and embarrassing, but it would be human. If it was Eli, same thing. Weird, violating, but still something I could understand. The video showed the empty bathroom for a long time. The sink, the cup, the mirror, the blue toothbrush standing alone in its labeled cup. Then the bathroom door opened. I watched myself walk in. I stopped breathing for a second. It was me. Same gray t-shirt, same sweatpants, bare feet. My hair flattened on one side from sleep. I moved slowly like I was tired but not stumbling. My eyes were open. I walked straight to the sink, took the blue toothbrush from the cup, put toothpaste on it, and began brushing my teeth. I did not remember any of it. I watched myself brush for almost 3 minutes. Too slow, too careful. I did not look down. I looked into the mirror the whole time, but my face in the mirror seemed wrong. Not distorted, just empty, like I was waiting for instructions. Then I saw the other figure, not in the room, in the mirror. It stood behind me near the shower curtain, half hidden by the edge of the reflection. A person-shaped darkness, taller than me, still. Its face was not clear, it was not leaning, it was not breathing hard. It was just there in the mirror, where the camera showed there was nothing behind my actual body. When the version of me in the bathroom bent down to spit the figure in the mirror, did not move with the reflection. It stayed upright, looking forward. I almost dropped the phone. I watched that part 5 more times. Then I took the phone to the kitchen. Brandon was eating cereal at the counter. Eli was already dressed for class, packing his bag. I did not explain it well. I know that. I just put the phone on the table and said, "You need to watch this." They watched. At first, Brandon looked amused. Then he saw me enter the bathroom on the screen and his face changed. Eli stepped closer. Neither of them said anything until the video showed me picking up the blue toothbrush. Brandon paused it. "Dude," I said, "keep watching." He stared at the frozen image of me holding the toothbrush. "That's you, I know. Keep watching the mirror," Eli said. "Why were you recording the bathroom?" "Because something keeps happening in there." Brandon looked at me like I had handed him the answer to a question he had not wanted to ask. "So, you set up a camera, sleepwalked into the bathroom, used the toothbrush, and now you're saying, what?" "Watch the mirror." He pressed play, but he kept his thumb near the screen. The video moved again. I brushed. My reflection stared. The dark shape appeared behind me. I pointed at it. "There, right there." Brandon did not lean closer. Eli did not blink. Brandon paused the video again, but not on the figure. He paused it on me brushing. "Man, this is bad." I looked at Eli. "You see it, right?" Eli's face had gone pale. That gave me 1 second of relief. Then he said, "I'm not doing this mirror thing with you." The sentence landed wrong. Not because it was dismissive, because it sounded like a rule. I said, "What mirror thing?" Eli zipped his bag. "You need help." Brandon nodded slowly, still looking at the phone. "Yeah, I don't know what else to say." I grabbed the phone and rewound the video. I tried to show them again. The figure, the way it did not match the room, the way it stayed standing when I bent over the sink. Brandon stepped back. "Stop. I'm trying to show you." "No," he said. "You're trying to make us see what you want us to see." Eli picked up his keys. "And you recorded a shared bathroom without telling us." That was when I understood how fast the story had turned. A few minutes earlier, I had evidence that someone else had been there. Now they had evidence against me. Brandon pointed at the phone. "Delete that." I said no. His voice went quiet. "Then don't be surprised when people get uncomfortable." Eli opened the apartment door and paused before leaving. He did not look at me when he said it. "If the landlord asks, I'm telling the truth." Then he walked out. Brandon followed a minute later. I stood alone in the kitchen with my phone in my hand. The video still paused on my own face in the mirror. Behind my reflection, the dark figure was barely visible. Barely. Just enough that I knew it was there. Not enough to make anyone admit it. The landlord texted me at 9:17 that morning. His name was Mr. Callahan, but I had only met him once when I signed the sublet papers at the kitchen table. He was the kind of landlord who acted friendly because he did not want to fix anything. He called everyone buddy. He said things like, "We'll take care of it," then never said when. His message was short. Brandon and Eli reached out. "Need to discuss some concerns about the apartment." I read it 3 times while sitting on the edge of my bed. Concerns. Not the bathroom. Not the blue toothbrush. Not the thing in the mirror. Concerns. I called him right away. He did not answer. 10 minutes later, he sent another text. "Let's keep everything calm. I'll stop by after work." Everything calm. That was when I knew Brandon and Eli had already told the story first. Neither of them came home until late afternoon. When Brandon walked in, he did not look at me. He went straight to his room and shut the door. Eli came in 20 minutes later and did the same. The apartment felt staged, too quiet, like everyone had agreed to wait for an adult. At 6:40, Mr. Callahan knocked. Brandon opened the door before I could. That told me enough. We all sat in the living room. I sat on the end of the couch. Brandon stood near the kitchen entrance with his arms crossed. Eli sat at the table with his laptop open even though he was not typing. Mr. Callahan did not sit. He held his phone in one hand and looked uncomfortable in the practiced way people look when they have already decided what they are going to do. So he said, "I saw the video." I looked at Brandon. He looked away. "You sent it to him." Brandon said we had to. "No, you didn't." Eli spoke without looking up. "You recorded us without permission. I recorded the bathroom door." "You recorded a shared space," he said. Mr. Callahan lifted one hand. "Let's not argue language." Language. That was what we were arguing now. Not why a toothbrush kept coming back. Not why I had no memory of walking into the bathroom. Not why there was someone in the mirror who was not in the room. Language. I said, "Did you watch the reflection?" Mr. Callahan's face changed slightly. "Not enough." just a tightening around the mouth. I watched enough to understand there's been some sleepwalking. I don't sleepwalk. Stress can do things. Brandon nodded like that was reasonable. I turned to him. You saw the thing in the mirror. He looked at Mr. Callahan instead of me. I saw you brushing your teeth at 2 in the morning with a camera hidden in the laundry basket. I laughed once. It sounded terrible. That's what you're choosing to see. No one answered. Mr. Callahan put his phone into his pocket. Look, you're not on the primary lease yet. This is still a trial sublet. Given the situation, I think it's best if we end the arrangement before it gets worse. The room went very still. I said, you're kicking me out. I'm saying we should avoid conflict. That thing is still in the apartment. Brandon rubbed his face. Brother, Eli closed his laptop. Please stop. I looked at him. Why won't you look at the mirror? For the first time, Eli's expression cracked. Not fear exactly, anger covering fear. Because it doesn't help, he said. Nobody spoke after that. It does not help. Those 4 words told me more than anything else he had said. Mr. Callahan cleared his throat. You can have until Sunday. It was Thursday. I packed that night. Not all of it, just enough to make the room look like I had accepted the decision. Clothes, laptop, charger, 2 textbooks, my documents from the desk drawer. I left the rest in boxes because I did not know where I was going yet. My old roommate from freshman year let me stay on his couch for a few nights. He did not ask many questions. I told him the apartment did not work out. That was the phrase everyone wanted anyway. Did not work out. Clean. Neutral. No one had to choose. On Sunday morning, I went back for the last load. Brandon was in the kitchen scrolling on his phone. Eli was by the front door, shoes on, keys in hand. It looked like they had both been waiting for me to finish. I checked my room twice. Empty closet, empty drawers, nothing under the bed. Then I went to the bathroom. I do not know why. Maybe because I needed to see it one last time. Maybe because part of me wanted proof that leaving had fixed something. The sink was clean, too clean. The mirror had no streaks. The counter had been wiped down. The soap dispenser was back where the second cup had been. The plastic cup held 3 toothbrushes. Red, white, blue. I stared at it. My black toothbrush was gone. In its place was the blue one. Old now, the bristles bent outward, the handle scratched near the base. Still wet. I stepped back. Brandon appeared in the doorway behind me. See, he said quietly, it's over. I pointed at the cup. That's not mine. Eli came up behind him. It has your initial on it. I looked closer. There was a letter carved into the blue plastic. N. Not marker, not tape. Carved. Small uneven lines dug into the handle like someone had scratched it there with a fingernail. I said that wasn't there before. Brandon sighed, not angry, disappointed. That was worse. Man, just go. I wanted to take the toothbrush with me. I wanted to throw it into the street. I wanted to break it in half and make both of them watch. But I did not touch it. Some part of me understood that if I picked it up, they would say I had accepted it. So I left it there. I walked out with my last box. Mr. Callahan kept half my deposit for lease disruption. Brandon never answered my texts. Eli blocked me before the end of the week. For a while, I convinced myself that leaving was enough. I slept on my friend's couch for 9 nights. Then I found a basement room in a house across town. It was smaller, more expensive, but there were no roommates sharing the bathroom. Just me and an old medicine cabinet above the sink. The first morning there, I brushed my teeth with a new black toothbrush from a sealed pack. I threw the packaging away myself. I remember that. A month later, I woke up before my alarm. The basement was quiet. No footsteps overhead, no hallway light, no one else breathing on the other side of a thin apartment wall. I went to the bathroom half asleep and opened the medicine cabinet. My black toothbrush was gone. A blue one was waiting in its place, wet. And on the mirror where the glass had fogged slightly from the shower, I had not taken yet, someone had written one word with a finger. Yours. The first time I saw the basket, it was empty. That should have made it less disturbing. It didn't. I had moved into the building 3 days earlier, into a 3rd-floor apartment in Pittsburgh that I found through a sublet post. The rent was lower than it should have been. Not suspiciously low, just low enough that I did not ask too many questions. I had been sleeping on my cousin's couch for almost a month, and I needed somewhere that was mine, even if it was only one room behind a door that did not lock very well. The building was old in a way people online call charming. Narrow brick front, black fire escape, mailboxes in the lobby with names written on fading tape. Inside it smelled like dust radiator heat and old cooking oil. The stairs creaked no matter how carefully you stepped. The hallway lights hummed even during the day. My roommates were Tessa and Mark. Tessa had the room closest to the kitchen. She was friendly in a calm, practiced way. The first night she showed me which cabinet shelf was mine, which drawer stuck, and which burner on the stove took forever to light. She kept saying things like, "People mostly keep to themselves here," as if that was supposed to reassure me. Mark had the other bedroom. He was quieter, not unfriendly, just the kind of person who wanted every conversation to end before it became a problem. When I asked about building rules, he said, "Don't make noise, don't leave trash out, don't make the neighbors care who you are." I remember that last one because it sounded like advice. Later it felt like a warning. The laundry room was in the basement. Tessa took me down there the first Saturday because the machines used an app, and the app did not work unless you scanned a faded QR code taped beside the vending machine. The basement smelled like wet concrete and powdered detergent. One fluorescent light flickered near the water heater. There were 4 washers, 4 dryers, and a folding table, with one broken leg that someone had fixed with duct tape. "If people leave stuff down here, just ignore it," Tessa said. "What kind of stuff?" She shrugged. "Laundry stuff, socks, dryer sheets, baskets, happens all the time." She said it casually, like she was talking about weather. That was when I noticed the basket. It sat on top of dryer number 4. White plastic, rectangular, cheap, the kind you can buy at Walmart or Target for a few dollars. It was empty, but one handle had a small black burn mark near the corner. The plastic there was warped inward, shiny, and uneven, like someone had held a lighter to it for just a second too long. I looked at it longer than I meant to. Tessa noticed. "That's probably someone's," she said. I figured, people forget things. I nodded because that was normal. People did forget things in laundry rooms. They left socks in dryers. They left detergent bottles with 1 inch left. They left baskets because carrying wet clothes upstairs in your arms was annoying. Still, the burn mark bothered me. I did my laundry while Tessa waited by the basement door, scrolling on her phone. She did not seem eager to stay down there. When my clothes were in the washer, we went back upstairs. On the 3rd floor landing, I glanced toward our hallway. The white basket was there, not in the basement, not on dryer number 4. On the floor near the stairwell about 10 feet from our apartment door. Empty. Handle turned toward me. Burn mark facing up. I stopped. Tessa walked 2 more steps before realizing I was not beside her. She turned back and looked at the basket. For 1 second, her face changed. Not fear exactly, more like irritation, like someone had broken a rule everyone else knew. Then it was gone. She smiled a little. "See," she said, "people leave stuff everywhere." I looked down the stairs. No one was there. I had not heard anyone come up behind us. I had not heard plastic scrape against the steps. The basket had been in the basement less than 5 minutes earlier. I said, "Wasn't that downstairs?" Tessa did not answer right away. Then she pulled her keys from her pocket and walked past it toward our door. Probably another one. It was not another one. I knew it. Same white plastic. Same warped black spot on the handle. Same empty inside. Mark opened the apartment door before Tessa used her key. He looked at us, then at the basket in the hallway. His expression went flat. Tessa said someone left a basket out. Mark kept looking at it. Then he said, "Don't bring it in." I asked, "Why would I bring it in?" Neither of them answered. Tessa stepped inside. Mark held the door open for me. Behind us, the basket sat quietly on the hallway carpet, empty and ordinary. And somehow, both of my roommates were acting like the safest thing we could do was pretend none of us had seen it. The basket was still there the next morning. That surprised me more than seeing it in the hallway the night before. I had expected someone to take it. The owner, a neighbor, the super, anyone. But when I opened our apartment door at 7:30, It was sitting in the same place near the stairwell, handle turned up, burn mark facing the ceiling, like an eye that had been left open. I stepped around it on my way to work. When I came back that afternoon, it was gone. For a few hours, I let myself feel stupid about the whole thing. That was easy in that apartment. The moment something strange stopped being visible, everyone acted like noticing it had been the strange part. Tessa made pasta in the kitchen and talked about a neighbor on the second floor who always ordered too much Amazon stuff. Mark watched a basketball game with the volume low. Nobody mentioned the basket. Then around 9 that night, someone knocked. Not loud, just 2 soft taps on the apartment door. Tessa was on the couch. Mark was at the table with his laptop. Both of them looked up, but neither moved. I waited. The knock came again. 2 taps. I said, "Are we expecting someone?" Tessa picked up the remote and paused the TV. Number. Mark closed his laptop halfway. "Don't open it." That was the first thing he said. Not "who is it?" Not "check the peephole." "Don't open it." I looked at him. "Why?" He did not answer. So I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. No one was there. Just the hallway, yellow light, old carpet, the stairs at the end, and the basket. It was directly outside our door now. Not near the stairwell, not off to the side, right in front of the threshold, close enough that the door would hit it if I opened too fast. I stepped back. Tessa stood behind me. I had not heard her move. "It's probably Mrs. Hanley's," she said. "Who?" "Downstairs. She leaves things around sometimes." Mark said from the table, "People leave laundry stuff everywhere." He said it flatly, like he was repeating something he had been told to say. I opened the door carefully. The basket scraped backward an inch. It was no longer empty. There was 1 black sock inside, just one, folded over on itself, sitting in the center of the white plastic. I stared at it. It looked like mine. Not exactly mine. A lot of black socks looked the same, but it was the same brand I wore for work. Same ribbed ankle, same gray stitching near the toe. I owned 6 pairs like it. I picked it up. It was warm, not hot from a dryer, warm like someone had just held it in their hand. I said, "This was empty yesterday." Tessa crossed her arms. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. You saw it for 2 seconds in a hallway." I turned to Mark. He was looking at the sock, but when I caught him, he looked at the laptop instead. "Mark," he sighed. "Random socks happen. This was outside our door. It's an apartment building. It knocked." Neither of them said anything to that. That was the worst part. The silence was not confusion. It was refusal. I wanted one of them to laugh. I wanted Tessa to tell me I was being dramatic. I wanted Mark to say the pipes made knocking sounds. Anything would have been better than the way both of them stood there, like I had said a word they had agreed not to repeat. Finally, Tessa reached for the basket. "Just take it downstairs." I pulled it back. "Why me?" "Because you're holding it." It was such a small answer, so normal, so clean. I carried the basket downstairs because there was no other move that did not make me look ridiculous. Mark watched from the doorway, but did not follow. Tessa went back to the couch and unpaused the TV before I had even reached the stairs. The basement was colder than the hallway. The laundry room was empty. Dryer number 4 was off. I set the basket on top of it exactly where I had first seen it. I left the sock inside because touching it once had been enough. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the basket handle. The burn mark had changed. Not much, just enough. The black spot looked darker, and the melted edge had curled outward like the plastic had been heated again recently. I leaned closer. There was a smell, faint, burnt plastic, fresh. I went upstairs faster than I meant to. At our door, I reached for the handle and stopped. A single black thread was caught under the latch. Thin, loose, the same kind of thread that had been fraying from the sock. I looked down the hallway. No one was there. Inside, Tessa laughed at something on the TV. Mark said, "You good?" I opened the door and stepped in. "Yeah," I said, because I was starting to understand the rule. In that building, things could appear where they should not. Things could move closer. Things could leave pieces of themselves on your door. But the moment you said that out loud, you became the thing everyone wanted removed. After that night, I tried to stop looking for the basket. That sounds impossible now, but at the time it felt like the only way to keep living there. If I saw it, I would not mention it. If I heard something in the hallway, I would not open the door. If Tessa and Mark wanted to treat a burned plastic laundry basket like a normal part of apartment life, then I would try to do the same. For 2 days, it almost worked. I went to work. I came home. I cooked cheap pasta in the kitchen. I nodded when Tessa talked about a podcast she liked. I let Mark complain about the radiator making noise in his room. Normal things, small things. The kind of things people talk about when everyone is quietly avoiding the one thing they all know is wrong. Then I saw the basket again. It was in the laundry room on Wednesday evening, sitting beside washer number 2. A man I had never seen before was standing over it folding towels. He was older, maybe in his 60s, wearing a brown cardigan and slippers, even though the basement floor was cold. For a second I felt relieved. There, someone owned it, someone real, someone boring. The man put a towel into the basket and lifted it by the burned handle. I wanted to ask him if it was his. I wanted to ask where he lived. But he looked up before I could speak, and there was something in his expression that stopped me. Not fear, not guilt, more like warning. He carried the basket past me without saying a word and went up the stairs. I waited in the laundry room for 10 minutes. Then I took my clothes out of the washer, moved them into a dryer, and went back upstairs. The basket was waiting on the 3rd floor hallway. Same white plastic, same burned handle, empty again. It sat beside the elevator door, angled slightly toward our apartment. I stood there with wet laundry in my arms, staring at it. The elevator was old, slow, loud. If the man had come up in it, I would have heard the doors open. If he had used the stairs, I would have passed him or heard him above me. There was no other way to the 3rd floor. But the basket was there. When I got inside, I asked Mark if he had seen an older man in a brown cardigan. He did not look away from the sink where he was rinsing a plate. No, he was carrying the basket. Mark turned off the water. For a moment, he just stood there with his hands over the sink. Then he said, "A lot of people do laundry." I know, but he took it upstairs and now it's outside again. Mark dried the plate slowly. Maybe he put it there. Why? He put the plate into the rack. I don't know. That was all he would give me. Later that night, the basket moved again. I did not see it happen. I only noticed when I went to take out the trash. It had been beside the elevator. Now it was outside our apartment, pushed against the wall between our door and the neighbors. Inside, it was a white t-shirt, plain, folded once. I did not touch it at first. The shirt looked new, but not store new. It had that soft, thinned out look clothes get after being washed too many times. It was my size. Medium, no tag at the collar, just a faint gray rectangle where one had been cut out. The smell was wrong. Not dirty, not moldy. Detergent, but not mine. I used the cheapest detergent I could find, the blue jug from the dollar store. This smelled sharp and sweet like lavender and bleach together. It made the hallway feel too clean. Tessa opened the door behind me. She looked at the basket, then at the shirt. "Don't," she said. I turned around. "Don't what?" "Don't start." That was all. Not "don't touch it." Not "don't take it." "Don't start." I said this was downstairs again. She leaned against the door frame and rubbed her forehead. "People leave laundry stuff everywhere. You keep saying that. Because it's true. There's a shirt in it now. A lot of people own white shirts. It's my size." She looked at me, then tired and flat. "You're tracking sizes now." The way she said it made me feel stupid, which I think was the point. I left the shirt in the basket. I went back inside. I did not sleep much. By Friday, I started writing things down. Not because I thought notes would help, because I needed proof for myself that I was not making the pattern up. Monday, basement. Tuesday, outside apartment. Wednesday, elevator. Wednesday night, outside apartment again. Friday, hallway by stairs. Each time closer. Each time something inside. Sock, shirt, nothing, shirt again. And every time I mentioned it, someone made the object smaller than the problem. A sock, a shirt, a basket, just laundry. That Friday night, I set my phone on the bookshelf facing the apartment door. I did not tell Tessa or Mark. I turned the brightness down, plugged it into a charger, and started recording the hallway through the gap under my cracked open bedroom door. I expected nothing. That was almost what I got. The video showed our dark entryway for hours. Tessa came home at 11:08. Mark left the kitchen at 12:31. At 1:42, the radiator knocked hard enough that the phone shook a little. At 3:12, the sound cut out. Not the video, just the sound. For 46 seconds, the hallway stayed visible and completely silent. No footsteps, no door movement, no shadow crossing the floor. Then the audio came back with a sharp click. At 3:13, the basket was there, right outside our door, centered, empty. When I showed Mark in the morning, he watched only once. Then he handed the phone back and said, "This is how people make themselves paranoid." I said, "The sound disappears right before it shows up." He looked toward Tessa's closed bedroom door. Then he said very quietly, "Stop recording the hallway." Why? Because if you keep trying to prove it, people are going to start asking why it picked our door. That was the first time anyone had said picked. And the first time I understood Mark was not refusing to believe me. He was refusing to be included. By Saturday morning, I had 5 photos of the basket on my phone. One by the stairwell, one outside our door, one beside the elevator, one in the laundry room, one from the hallway camera, blurry and dark, centered in front of our apartment like it had been placed there for a delivery. I did not show Tessa right away. I knew what she would say. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. So I waited until she was in the kitchen making coffee and Mark was at the table eating toast. Then I opened my notes app and read the list out loud. Monday, basement. Tuesday, outside the apartment. Wednesday, elevator. Wednesday night, outside again. Friday, hallway camera. Tessa did not turn around. Mark stopped chewing. I said, "It's getting closer." Tessa put her mug down harder than she needed to. "It's a basket. I know what it is." "No," she said. "I don't think you do. I think you're turning it into something." That sentence stayed with me. Turning it into something. As if the thing had no meaning until I gave it one. I put my phone on the table and showed them the photos anyway. Mark looked at the first 2. Tessa barely glanced. When I got to the hallway video, Mark pushed the phone back toward me. "Don't send that to anyone," he said. I looked at him. Why? Because people don't want this kind of thing in the building, Chad. This kind of thing. Tessa crossed her arms. Drama. I said, "A basket keeps showing up at our door, and the audio cuts out right before it appears." Mark said, "You're tracking a laundry basket now." He said it like that was the embarrassing part, not the missing sound, not the fact that he had said it picked our door. The tracking. I should have stopped there. I know that now. I should have deleted the photos, finished my cheap coffee, and waited out the rest of my sublet without asking another question. Instead, I opened the building group chat. There were 23 people in it. Most of the messages were normal. Package notices, complaints about the front door not latching, someone asking whose car was blocking the alley. Tessa had added me the day I moved in. I sent one photo, just one, the basket outside our apartment door. Under it, I typed, "Does anyone know who this belongs to?" For 15 minutes, no one answered. Then a woman named Diane replied, "Please don't start this again." I stared at the message. Again. Not "I don't know," not "Ask the landlord." Again. Before I could type, Tessa snatched her phone from the counter. "Oh my God," she said. Mark stood up. I wrote, "Start what again?" The typing bubble appeared under Diane's name, then disappeared, appeared again, disappeared again. No message came. Tessa said, "Delete it." No, delete it. Why did she say again? Tessa looked at Mark. Mark looked toward the hallway like someone might be listening outside our apartment door. I typed another message. "Has this happened before?" This time the reply came from a number without a saved name. "Wrong apartment." Then another person wrote, "Probably Mrs. Hanley's." Then Diane again. "It's just laundry. Please stop." The messages came too quickly after that. People leave stuff around. Ask the super. Don't make this weird. Hallways are shared spaces. It was like watching an entire building agree on the same sentence in different words. Then Mark said something I still think about. "You shouldn't have posted the handle." The room went quiet. Tessa closed her eyes. I slowly turned toward him. "What about the handle?" Mark's face changed, only slightly, but enough. He picked up his toast plate and walked it to the sink. "I mean, people can identify it." "No, you said the handle," Tessa said. He misspoke. Mark rinsed the plate even though there was nothing on it. I opened the photo again. The burn mark was clear, a black warped spot on white plastic. Small but impossible to miss once you knew to look at it. I zoomed in. The melted edge looked darker than before. Not just burned, layered, like it had been burned more than once. I typed into the group chat, "Is the burn mark important?" No one replied. Not for 3 minutes. Not for 10. Then the entire thread went silent. At 8:46 that night, the super finally wrote, "Please keep personal concerns out of the building chat." Personal concerns. That was what it had become. Not a shared hallway. Not an object everyone could see. Personal. Mine. I put my phone down and went to my room. For a while, nothing happened. Then close to midnight, I heard plastic scrape across carpet outside our door. One long drag. Then a pause. Then another. I did not move. I heard Tessa's bedroom door open. Then Mark's. Nobody spoke. The scraping stopped. After a minute, Mark knocked softly on my door. "Don't open it," he said. I stood on the other side, barely breathing. "What is it?" He did not answer. Tessa whispered from the hallway. "Mark." His voice dropped. "I'm serious. Don't open it." In the morning, the basket was in the laundry room, not outside our door, not in the hallway, downstairs again. It sat on the folding table with a gray hoodie inside. The hoodie looked familiar, too familiar. Same color as the one I had lost earlier that week. Same worn cuffs. Same small bleach dot near the pocket. The zipper had been pulled all the way up. The hood was folded inward, like something had been wrapped inside it. I stood there in the basement staring at it under the flickering fluorescent light. Behind me on the stairs, I heard Mark say my name. Not loud, not angry, just scared. And for the first time since I moved in, he did not tell me I was imagining anything. Mark stood on the basement stairs and looked at the hoodie like he already knew what was inside. That was the part that made me hesitate. Not the basket, not the burned handle, not even the hoodie that looked exactly like the one I had lost. It was Mark's face. He was scared, but not surprised. There is a difference. Surprised people ask questions. Scared people who already know something just wait for the damage. I said, "Is that mine?" Mark did not come down the last 3 steps. "I don't know. You know what my hoodie looks like." A lot of people own gray hoodies. It was almost the same thing Tessa had said about the shirt. A lot of people own white shirts. A lot of people own black socks. A lot of people leave laundry stuff everywhere. The building had a way of making every specific thing sound common until you felt stupid for noticing it. I walked closer to the folding table. The hoodie was folded inside the basket, with the zipper pulled all the way to the top. The hood had been tucked inward, making a soft round shape in the middle. I did not want to touch it. I also knew that if I did not touch it, everyone would pretend there was nothing to see. "Get Tessa," I said. Mark shook his head. "No." "Why?" "Because she'll tell you not to open it." That was the wrong answer. I looked back at him. "What happens if I do?" Mark's mouth opened a little, but no words came out. Then he looked up the stairs toward the basement door. I opened the hoodie. There was no body, no blood, nothing dramatic. Somehow that made it worse. Inside were 3 things. A key fob with a cracked black casing, a receipt from the laundromat across the street, the one I had never used, and a torn piece of notebook paper with 4 numbers written on it, 312. I stared at the paper. The same minute my hallway video had lost sound. Mark finally came down 1 step. "Put it back." I picked up the receipt instead. It was dated 2 days before I moved into the building. The time printed near the bottom was 3:12 a.m. The ink was faded but still readable. 1 item wash and fold service. Paid cash. No name, no address. Just the time. I said, "This was before I lived here." Mark whispered, "Please put it back." The word "please" made it worse. I turned the key fob over in my palm. It had 1 small sticker on the back, half peeled away. Someone had written a number on it in blue pen, but most of it was smeared. I could only make out a 3. Maybe another number after it. Maybe a B. Mark stepped into the laundry room then and grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but fast. "Stop," he said. I pulled away. "What is wrong with this building?" He looked at the basket, then at the ceiling, then at the door. "It's not the building." Before I could ask what he meant, the basement door opened. Tessa came down the stairs in sweatpants and an oversized sweatshirt. She looked at Mark first, then at me, then at the open hoodie. Her face went still. "I told you not to start," she said. I laughed because I could not help it. "You told me not to start." "There's a receipt from before I moved in. There's a key fob. There's a note with the exact time the video cut out. Tessa looked at the items like they were dirty dishes someone had left in the sink. Those don't mean anything. That's insane. Her eyes snapped to mine. No, what's insane is you dragging everyone into it. Mark said her name quietly. Tessa ignored him. You posted in the group chat. You recorded the hallway. Now you're opening things that don't belong to you. They were in my hoodie. You don't know that. I pointed at the bleach spot near the pocket. That is mine. A lot of people own gray hoodies. The sentence came out too fast, too practiced. For a second, none of us moved. Even Tessa seemed to hear it. Then my phone buzzed. A message from the super. Please do not continue sending disturbing messages to tenants. Any further issues should go through management. Disturbing messages. I showed it to them. Tessa looked relieved. Mark looked sick. I said, so that's it. I'm the problem now. Tessa did not answer. She did not have to. I put the receipt, the key fob, and the note back inside the hoodie. I zipped it halfway, then stopped. The zipper teeth caught on something near the collar. When I looked closer, I saw a single black thread caught in the metal pull. The same kind of thread that had been on our door latch. The same kind of thread from the sock. I left it there. I stepped away from the basket. Fine, I said. I won't touch it. Tessa picked up the basket by the unburned handle. Mark flinched. Tessa. She gave him a look that shut him up. Then she carried it to dryer number 4 and set it on top exactly where I had first seen it. There, she said, done. But it was not done. Because when we got back upstairs, I realized I had left my phone charger in the laundry room. I almost let it go. I almost decided a charger was not worth going back down there alone. Then I remembered my budget, my bank account, the fact that I had already lost a hoodie, a sock, and maybe my mind in front of everyone. So I went back. The laundry room was empty. The basket was still on dryer number 4. The hoodie was gone. The receipt was gone. The key fob was gone. The note was gone. Only the basket remained. Empty again. I walked closer slowly. The burned mark on the handle was smoking. Not much. A thin, pale thread of smoke curled up from the warped plastic and disappeared under the fluorescent light. The smell hit me a second later. Fresh burnt plastic. Sharp. Hot. As if someone had just pressed a flame to the handle while I was upstairs. I backed out of the room and did not go back for the charger. When I reached the 3rd floor, Tessa and Mark were both standing inside the apartment with the door open. They looked past me, down the stairs, not at me. Neither of them asked what happened. Neither of them needed to. Mark only said one thing. You should start looking for another place. I started looking for another place that night. Not because Mark told me to, because of the way he said it. There was no judgment in his voice, no irritation, no tired roommate tone. He sounded like someone giving directions during a fire, low and controlled, because panic would only waste time. Tessa stood beside him and said nothing. That was new. Usually she had something ready, a sentence to make the problem smaller, a way to turn it back on me. But that night, she only watched the stairwell behind me. I found a room 2 days later in a house across the river. It was more expensive. The ceiling was low. The landlord wanted cash for the first month and did not answer half my questions. I took it anyway. When I told Tessa I was leaving, she nodded like she had been expecting it. Maybe this place just wasn't a good fit, she said. Mark was in the kitchen when she said it. He looked down at his coffee. You'll feel better somewhere else, he added. Neither of them apologized. Neither of them asked where I was going. That should have made me angry. Instead, it made me feel like I had already been removed from a conversation they were still having without me. I spent the next 2 evenings packing. Nothing strange happened at first. No basket in the hallway, no scratching plastic, no smell of burnt handle. The laundry room stayed quiet. The building group chat went back to normal complaints about packages and parking. Diane asked if anyone had received a brown envelope by mistake. Someone posted a picture of a cat by the trash bins. Normal things. That was what almost worked on me. By Friday night, I started wondering if leaving had fixed it before I even left. Maybe the building had gotten what it wanted. Maybe Tessa and Mark had been right in the worst possible way. Maybe the problem really was what happened when someone noticed too much. On Saturday morning, I carried my boxes down one at a time. Mark helped with the heavier ones. He did not say much. Tessa wiped the kitchen counter even though I had already cleaned my shelf. When we reached the last box, Mark stopped beside the stairwell. "Don't use the basement door," he said. I looked at him. "What?" "Just take the front stairs. My car's in the back. Move it around." Tessa came out with a trash bag of the last things I was throwing away. "Mark," she said. He ignored her. "Just don't go through the basement." The basement door was at the bottom of the stairs past the mailboxes. It was the faster way to the back lot. I had used it all week. But Mark's face had the same look from the laundry room. Scared, not surprised. So I took the front stairs. It made no difference. At least that was what I thought then. I checked the apartment one last time. My room was empty. Closet empty. Desk drawer empty. Window locked. I checked the bathroom even though I had no reason to. The sink was clean. The shower curtain hung still. Nothing in the tub. Nothing behind the door. Tessa stood in the hallway while I looked. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I know." "Then why are you?" I looked at her in the mirror. She looked tired, older than she had a week ago. "Because no one else will," I said. For once she did not correct me. I left the key on the kitchen counter. Mark walked me to the front door. Tessa stayed inside. At the threshold, Mark said, "If you see it again, don't bring it back." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" He looked past me into the hallway. "It means don't try to return it." Before I could ask anything else, Tessa called from inside. "Mark." He stepped back. "Good luck," he said, and closed the door. I drove out of Pittsburgh 40 minutes later. I did not look in the rearview mirror for the first 10 blocks. That sounds dramatic, but it is true. I kept both hands on the wheel and watched the road, like looking back might invite something to follow. The city thinned into gas stations, fast food signs, warehouses, and long patches of gray highway. I stopped at a gas station outside Washington, Pennsylvania, because I needed coffee and because my hands had started shaking. Inside, I bought the largest coffee they had and a pack of gum I did not want. The cashier called me boss. The place smelled like burnt hot dogs and floor cleaner. It was so ordinary that I almost cried. When I came back out, I remembered my jacket was in the trunk. I opened it. The white laundry basket was inside. It sat in the center of the trunk, not tipped over, not wedged between boxes, not crushed under anything. Perfectly placed. Empty looking at first. The burned handle faced me. I did not move. A car pulled into the pump behind me. Someone laughed near the ice machine. The gas station speaker played a country song too quietly to recognize. The basket did not belong there. I had never put it in my car. I had checked the trunk twice before leaving, once while loading, once before closing it in the back lot. There had been boxes, a duffel bag, my lamp, and a rolled-up blanket. No basket. I should have closed the trunk and driven away. Instead, I reached in. There was a shirt inside. White, folded once, medium. Not mine. On the inside collar, written in black marker, were 2 characters. 3B. I stood there, holding the shirt between 2 fingers, unable to breathe properly. 3B. My apartment had been 3A. The apartment beside ours had no name on the mailbox, no doormat, no light under the door. When I had asked Tessa about it the first week, she said it had been empty for months. I looked at the shirt again. The marker had bled slightly into the fabric, like it had been written while the collar was damp. I left the basket beside the gas station dumpster. I did not throw the shirt away separately. I did not take a picture. I did not ask the cashier if they had cameras in the lot. I just placed the basket down, got back into my car, and drove. For the next 2 weeks, I counted my clothes every time I did laundry. Before washing, after drying, before folding, after folding. I still do that sometimes. I know how it sounds. But once you find a stranger's shirt in your trunk, marked with the number of an empty apartment next to yours, you stop trusting clean laundry. You stop trusting empty baskets. And you stop believing people when they tell you something is harmless, just because everyone has agreed not to talk about it. The rule was simple: no noise after 10 p.m. At first, I thought that made the apartment safer. I had just moved to Seattle for a morning shift job at a coffee shop near Capitol Hill. The pay was not great, but it was steady, and steady mattered. The room I found was in a second-floor apartment in an old building with narrow hallways, thin walls, and a landlord who treated noise complaints like emergency calls. Jenna explained that part before I even brought my suitcase inside. "We're not strict," she said. "We're just respectful." That was how she talked. Calm, reasonable, like every rule had already been discussed by smarter people before you arrived. The apartment had 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen, and a pantry door beside the fridge. Jenna had the largest room, Caleb had the one across from mine. Ross had the room closest to the pantry, though I barely saw him that first week. He worked remote tech support at night, and usually had headphones on. Sometimes his door was open just enough for blue monitor light to spill into the hallway. Caleb gave me the shorter version of the rules while helping me carry a box. Old building, sound travels, just don't make people care about us. It reminded me of every shared place I had ever lived. Keep your dishes clean, pay rent on time. Don't be loud, don't be weird, don't make yourself the problem. Quiet hours started at 10. No vacuuming, no calls in the hallway, no loud cooking, no slamming cabinets, no opening and closing doors unless you had to. Jenna even pointed at the pantry. "That door sticks," she said. "Don't yank it at night." I nodded like that was normal, and it was normal, at least for the first few nights. The pantry was small, cereal boxes, paper towels, a bag of rice, cleaning sprays on the bottom shelf. Nothing worth thinking about. The door had old paint around the edges and a loose brass knob that clicked when you turned it. During the day, it looked like any other pantry in any other apartment. Then on my first Thursday night there, I heard the knock. It was 10:07. I remember because I had just checked my phone before plugging it in. 3 taps. Light. Close together. At first I thought it came from the wall behind my bed. Then I heard it again. 3 taps. This time I knew it came from the kitchen. I sat up and listened. The apartment was completely quiet. Jenna's door was closed. Caleb had gone to bed an hour earlier. Ross was in his room with the blue monitor light under his door. Then came the third set, 3 taps. From the pantry, I did not move. That is what bothers me now. Not that I was scared, I was not scared yet. I was careful. There is a difference. I was the new roommate. It was after 10. I did not want to walk into the kitchen, open a sticking door, and wake 3 people because I heard a small noise in an old apartment. So I stayed in bed. I told myself it was pipes, or the fridge, or a neighbor's cabinet on the other side of the wall. The tapping stopped after that. In the morning, I went to make coffee before work. Jenna was already in the kitchen dressed for her office job, rinsing a mug in the sink. Caleb stood near the fridge scrolling on his phone. Ross's door was closed. I reached for the pantry to get the coffee filters. Then I stopped. A strip of blue painter's tape had been pressed across the edge of the pantry door and the frame. Not much. Just one clean strip about 6 inches long holding the door shut. I looked at it. Jenna turned off the sink. "Need something. The pantry is taped." She glanced at the door. "Oh, it rattles sometimes." Caleb put his phone in his pocket. "Hinge is loose." Neither of them checked the hinge. Neither of them touched the tape. I said, "Did one of you put it there last night?" Jenna smiled a little. "Probably." That was not an answer, but she said it like it was. I peeled the tape back carefully and opened the pantry. It made a small sticky sound as the paint lifted from the frame. Inside, everything looked normal. Cereal, rice, paper towels, cleaning supplies. Nothing fallen, nothing broken, nothing that could have knocked 3 times from the inside. Jenna watched me for too long. Caleb opened the fridge and said, "You'll get used to this place." I looked back into the pantry. At the bottom of the inside door, low near the floor, there were a few thin scratches in the paint. Small, fresh-looking, like fingernails had dragged across it from the inside. I almost said something. Then I looked at Jenna. She was still watching me. Caleb closed the fridge. And I remembered the rule. No noise after 10. No drama before work. No making people care about you. So I took the coffee filters, closed the pantry, pressed the tape back down, and left for my shift without saying another word. Behind me, as I opened the apartment door, I heard Jenna say softly to Caleb, "See, I do not know what she meant. I only know Caleb did not ask." The tape was still there when I came home from work. That was the first thing I checked. Not my room, not the mail, not the groceries I had left in the fridge, the pantry. The blue strip had been pressed back down across the door frame, smoother than I had left it that morning. No wrinkles, no loose edge. like someone had taken time to make it neat. Jenna was making tea at the counter. I pointed at the door. Did you retape that? She did not turn around right away. The pantry. Yeah, it rattles. You said that. She put the tea bag into her mug and poured hot water over it. Then why are you asking? It was not rude. That made it worse. Her voice stayed soft and patient, like I was making a normal conversation unnecessarily difficult. Caleb came in from the living room holding a plate. The hinge is loose, he said. I looked at him. Did you check it? He blinked. What? The hinge. He looked at the pantry, then back at me. No. I waited. He added, it's an old building. That was the answer for everything in that apartment. Pipes, drafts, loose doors, scratches in paint, sounds after 10. Old building, sound travels. Don't make people care about us. Ross's door opened while we were talking. He stepped out wearing sweatpants and a faded hoodie, headphones around his neck. His eyes went straight to the pantry tape, then to me, then away. He walked to the fridge without saying anything. I asked, do you ever hear knocking from there? The room changed, not dramatically. No one gasped, no one froze like in a movie, but Jenna stopped stirring her tea. Caleb set his plate down without looking at it. Ross opened the fridge and stared inside, not taking anything out. Jenna spoke first. From where? The pantry. Caleb gave a short laugh. Why would there be knocking from the pantry? I said, that's what I'm asking. Jenna picked up her mug. Probably pipes. You said it rattles. It can be both. Ross closed the fridge, too carefully. Then he went back into his room. That night I tried to sleep early. I had to be up at 4:45 for the opening shift. I put my phone on the charger set, 2 alarms, and turned off the lamp. For a while the apartment was quiet in that heavy way. Old buildings get at night when every small sound seems too close. At 10:07 the tapping started again. 3 taps, pause, 2 taps, pause, 1 tap. I opened my eyes. The pattern made it harder to call it pipes. Pipes do not count down. I waited for someone else to react. Jenna's room was across the hall from mine. Caleb's was beside the bathroom. Ross was closest to the kitchen. If I could hear it, they could hear it. No doors opened. No one texted. 3 taps, 2 taps, 1 tap, then nothing. I reached for my phone and opened the group chat. Do you guys hear that? Jenna replied almost immediately. Quiet hours. That was all. Not hear what? Not are you okay? Quiet hours. Caleb replied a few seconds later. Probably pipes. Don't open doors this late. I stared at the screen. Ross did not reply, but under my door I saw the blue light from his room disappear, like he had turned his monitor off the second I asked. I got out of bed anyway, slowly. I opened my bedroom door just enough to look into the hallway. The apartment was dark, except for the small light above the stove. The pantry door was visible from where I stood. The tape was still across it, pale blue in the dim kitchen light. I stepped closer. The floor creaked once under my heel. The knocking stopped. I froze. After a few seconds, I took another step. Nothing. I reached the pantry and stood in front of it close enough to see where the tape pulled slightly at the paint. The door did not move. The knob did not turn. I told myself I should go back to bed. Then something scratched the other side. Not a knock, a drag, very soft, like fingernails moving down painted wood. I backed away so fast my shoulder hit the fridge. Jenna's door opened. She stood in the hallway in a long shirt, hair loose around her face. She did not look sleepy. That was what I noticed first. She looked awake, ready. What are you doing? I whispered. There's something in there. Her eyes went to the pantry, then to the tape, then back to me. No, there isn't. You heard it. She walked toward me, not fast, but directly enough that I stepped out of the kitchen. What I hear is you walking around after quiet hours. Caleb's door opened behind her. He looked past us at the pantry and sighed. Come on, man. I said. It scratched the door. Caleb rubbed his face. It's an old building. That is not an old building sound. Jenna lowered her voice. We all agreed to quiet hours. I almost laughed, because she said it like a moral issue. Like the problem was not a sound from inside a taped pantry. The problem was that I had stood up to listen. Ross's door opened last. He stood in the doorway with his headphones in one hand. For a second I thought he was going to help me. Instead he looked at the pantry and said one sentence. Don't answer it. No one moved. Jenna turned toward him slowly. Caleb whispered Ross. Ross blinked like he had not meant to say it out loud. I asked answer what? He stepped back into his room, closed the door, and from inside the pantry something tapped once. Very lightly, like it had heard him. The next morning everyone acted like Ross had not said anything. That was almost more disturbing than the tapping. Jenna made oatmeal in the microwave. Caleb drank coffee from a travel mug and checked the weather on his phone. Ross stayed in his room with the door closed. The pantry tape was still there, stretched neatly across the edge of the door like a bandage no one wanted to remove. I waited until Jenna was putting on her shoes. What did Ross mean last night? She did not look up. When? Don't answer it. Caleb stopped near the sink. Jenna tied one shoe, then the other. He was half asleep. He didn't look half asleep. Caleb said Ross says weird stuff when he's tired. That didn't sound weird, it sounded specific. Jenna stood and picked up her bag. You have to stop doing this before work. There it was again, the shift. Not what happened, not what Ross meant. What I was doing. I said, can we just open the pantry? Jenna looked at Caleb. He shrugged in that weak way people do when they want to seem neutral, but have already chosen a side. Fine, she said, during the day. She peeled the tape back carefully, like she did not want to tear it. The door stuck for a second, then opened with a small click. Nothing moved inside. No shape, no smell, no whisper from the shelves. Just cereal boxes, paper towels, a bag of rice, a broom, and 2 bottles of cleaning spray. Completely normal, almost aggressively normal. Jenna stepped back. See, I did not answer. I crouched near the bottom of the door. The scratches were still there. Thin white lines in the old paint clustered low, maybe 8 inches above the floor. I touched one with my fingertip. It felt fresh, not dusty, not worn smooth. A tiny flake of paint came off under my nail. What about these? Caleb leaned over. Old tenants had a dog. Jenna immediately said, yeah. I looked at her. You don't allow pets here? We don't now. The lease says no pets. Caleb sighed. Old tenants break rules. I stared at the marks again. They did not look like dog scratches. They were too narrow, too careful, like something had dragged the same point down the same place over and over. Ross's door opened behind us. He stood there in yesterday's hoodie, one hand on the door frame. He looked at the open pantry. His face went pale. Jenna closed it quickly. Not slammed, just quickly. Ross, she said too sharply. He looked at me, then at the bottom of the door. Then he said, you opened it. Caleb stepped between us. It's daytime. Ross swallowed. That doesn't matter. No one said anything for a second. Then Jenna laughed once. Small, dry. Okay, everybody has work. We're not doing this. She pressed the same strip of tape back across the door. I watched her thumb smooth it down. The tape had started to lose stickiness. One edge lifted slightly from the frame. Jenna noticed and added a second strip from a roll in the kitchen drawer. I had not seen that roll before. Blue painter's tape, new, unopened until that morning. At work, I kept thinking about it. Who buys tape for a door that only rattles? That night, I got home at 9:42. Jenna was already in her room. Caleb was brushing his teeth. Ross's blue monitor light was visible under his door. The pantry had 2 strips of tape across it now. One horizontal, one vertical, a small blue cross holding it shut. I stood in the kitchen longer than I should have. Caleb came out of the bathroom and saw me looking. Don't, he said. Don't what? Whatever you are about to do. I'm getting water. He nodded toward the pantry. Then get water. At exactly 10:07, the tapping started. 3, 2, 1. I was in my room sitting on the edge of the bed, already awake. This time, after the last tap, there was another sound. A soft knock from the living room. Behind me, I opened my door. The hallway was empty. The kitchen was dark. The pantry tape was still in place. Then a floorboard creaked in the living room. I stepped out. Nothing. Only the couch, the coffee table. This coffee table, the weak glow from the stove clock. Behind me, Ross's door opened. He stood half inside his room, half in the hall. His headphones were around his neck. Go back in your room, he whispered. I said, did you hear that? He looked toward the living room, then toward the pantry. It changes if you listen too long. What changes? He closed his eyes like he regretted speaking. Caleb's door opened. What the hell are you doing? Ross stepped back. I said, there was a knock in the living room. Caleb stared at me. Because you're walking around? I wasn't. Jenna opened her door last. She did not ask what happened. She just looked at the time on her phone. 10:09. Then she looked at me. We have one rule. From the pantry came one final tap. Soft. Almost polite. Everyone heard it. I know they did. Jenna's jaw tightened. Caleb looked at the floor. Ross backed fully into his room. And all three of them waited for me to be the first person to admit it. The next day, Jenna called a house meeting. She did not use those words, but that was what it was. She waited until everyone was in the apartment, then stood in the kitchen with her arms folded and said, "We need to reset expectations." That was how Jenna spoke when she wanted something to sound fair. Caleb leaned against the counter. Ross sat at the table with his headphones around his neck, not on. I stayed near the hallway close enough to leave if I needed to. Jenna said the quiet hours rule existed for a reason. The downstairs neighbors had complained before. The landlord was already watching the unit. If there was another complaint, he could review the lease, raise the rent, or refuse renewal. She said all of this without looking at the pantry. I said, "So, we're not going to talk about the tapping." Caleb looked at the ceiling. Jenna's mouth tightened. "We are talking about noise." "No, we're talking about me reacting to noise." Ross looked down at the table. That was enough for me to know I had said the right thing. Jenna took a slow breath. "If you hear something after 10, text the group. Do not walk around. Do not open doors. Do not knock back. Do not stand in the kitchen listening." "Knock back?" I asked. She went still. Caleb said, "She means don't make extra noise." But that was not what she had meant. I knew it. Ross knew it too. That night, I set my phone on the floor outside my room at 9:58. I did not point the camera at anything. I only opened the voice recorder. No video, no hallway recording, no bathroom violation, just audio. If the sound happened again, I wanted proof. At 10:07 it started. 3 taps. 2, 1. Then the long silence after it. I stayed in my room at first. I sat on the bed with both hands flat on my knees. I wanted to be able to say honestly that I had not gone looking for it. Then something dragged across the pantry door. Not hard, slow, like a nail moving from top to bottom. I stood up. I should not have. I know that now. I opened my door and stepped into the hall. The apartment was dark except for the stove clock. The recorder was still running on the floor behind me. I picked it up and walked toward the kitchen. The pantry tape was pulled tight across the door. 3 strips now. Jenna must have added another one during the day. I stood about 6 feet away. The scratching stopped. I whispered, "Who's there?" For a few seconds there was nothing. Then from behind the pantry door, a voice whispered back. Quiet. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was small and dry and close to the wood, like someone had put their mouth right against the other side. I backed into the counter so hard a mug rattled in the sink. Caleb's door opened first, then Jenna's. Ross did not open his door, but the blue light under it vanished. Jenna stepped into the hallway. "What did you do?" I held up the phone. I recorded it. Her eyes moved to the phone. Not the pantry, the phone. Caleb walked into the kitchen and looked at the tape. It was still intact. "You were out here again," he said. There was a voice. Jenna's face went blank. "No, you didn't even hear the recording yet." "I don't need to." That sentence was so honest it made me cold. Ross's door opened a crack. Jenna turned toward it. "Ross, stay in your room." The door closed again. I went back to my room and listened to the audio. I expected the taps, the scratching, the whisper. At first there was nothing but room tone. Then my door opened, my footsteps, the floor creak in the hallway, my breathing, then my own voice. "Who's there?" After that, no whisper, no quiet, no voice behind the pantry. Instead, there was a hard thud, one loud hit against wood, then another, then another. It sounded like someone pounding on the pantry door from the outside. It sounded like me. I sat on my bed with the phone in my hand, replaying it until the battery warning appeared. The next morning, Jenna asked to hear it. I should have said no, but part of me still believed proof could save me. She played it once at the kitchen table. Caleb stood behind her. Ross stayed in the hallway, close enough to hear, but not close enough to be part of it. The recording reached my voice. "Who's there?" Then the pounding started. Jenna stopped the audio. She looked at me like I had finally given her what she needed. "You were knocking on the pantry after quiet hours." I wasn't. "That's what this sounds like." It's missing the other sound. Caleb rubbed his eyes. There is no other sound. Ross whispered from the hallway. There was. Everyone turned. His face changed immediately like he had not meant to say it. Jenna stood up. Ross. He looked at the pantry, then at me. Then he went back into his room and shut the door. That afternoon, the landlord texted all of us. Received a noise complaint from downstairs. Knocking inside the unit after 10 p.m. Further quiet hour violations may affect the lease. No one replied in the group chat. But when I came home from work, Jenna was waiting in the kitchen. Caleb stood beside the fridge. The pantry door had a new layer of tape across it. Jenna said, "We need to talk about whether this is the right apartment for you." I looked at the pantry, then at the tape, then at both of them. You know it wasn't me. Caleb would not meet my eyes. Jenna said, "What we know is that every problem started after you moved in." From inside the pantry, very softly, something tapped once. Jenna did not move. Caleb did not breathe. I waited for one of them to say they heard it. Neither did. And somehow that single quiet tap became mine too. I stopped asking after that, not because I believed them, because I understood what would happen if I kept going. Jenna would call it a lease issue. Caleb would call it noise. Ross would close his door before he had to say anything useful. The landlord would get another complaint from downstairs, and somehow the thing inside the pantry would become my fault one more time. So, I bought foam earplugs from the drugstore on my way home from work. I started sleeping with one earbud and playing rain sounds low enough that no one could say I was breaking quiet hours. I stopped using the kitchen after 9. I stopped looking at the pantry when I passed it. I learned to move through the apartment like a guest in a place that wanted me gone. The tapping did not stop. It happened every night at 10:07. 3, 2, 1. Sometimes there was scratching after. Sometimes a soft drag against the door. Once I heard something like a breath press through the crack near the floor. I did not record it. I did not text the group. I lay still and let the rain sounds cover whatever it was doing. The others pretended better than I did. Jenna added more tape every few days. First a second strip, then a third, then a wide cross over the middle of the door. Caleb avoided the kitchen after dark. Ross started wearing headphones even when he was not working. No one said the pantry was broken anymore. No one mentioned the hinge. They just kept it shut. On my last Thursday there, I woke up thirsty. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But the room was dry and I had worked a double shift and my water bottle was empty. I checked my phone. 10:06. I almost waited until morning. Then I told myself that was insane. I was allowed to get water in the apartment I paid rent to live in. I opened my door quietly and stepped into the hallway. The apartment was not dark. That was the first thing wrong. The small stove light was on, and in that weak yellow glow, I saw all three of them standing near the kitchen. Jenna, Caleb, Ross. They were in a line facing the pantry. No one turned when I came out. No one asked why I was awake. The pantry door was covered in tape now, not just a few strips, layers. Blue painter's tape running across the edges over the knob down the frame across the bottom. It looked less like someone was stopping a rattle and more like someone had tried to seal a mouth. I whispered, "What are you doing?" Jenna raised one finger to her lips, not toward the pantry, toward me. The stove clock changed to 10:07. The first 3 taps came from inside the door. Caleb closed his eyes. 2 taps. Ross whispered something I could not hear. 1 tap, then silence. I stood frozen in the hallway watching them watch the door. For the first time, nobody tried to tell me they did not hear it. That should have felt like a victory. It did not, because they were not surprised. They were waiting. A small bulge appeared near the bottom strip of tape. At first, I thought the tape was peeling away from the old paint. Then it pushed outward again, slowly, deliberately. Something behind the door pressed against the tape from the inside, making it stretch into a small, rounded point, like a fingertip. Not enough to tear it, just enough to show pressure. Caleb whispered, "If we don't answer, it stops." My throat felt too tight. "How long has this been happening?" Jenna did not look at me. Ross answered, "Before you." The pressure against the tape disappeared. The pantry went still. Jenna lowered her hand. "Go back to bed," she said. I looked at the 3 of them. "You all knew." Caleb finally turned. His face was pale and tired. We knew not to make it worse. The next morning I told Jenna I was leaving early. She did not argue, she did not ask where I would go. She only nodded and said she understood. By noon, she had sent me part of my deposit through Venmo. Not all of it, just enough to make leaving feel like an agreement instead of being pushed out. When I came to get my last bag, Jenna met me at the door. She handed me an envelope with the rest of the cash. "Please don't tell the next person," she said. I stared at her. The next person. Her expression went blank. The practiced calm came back over her face. "I mean, just don't post about it. People exaggerate online." I took the envelope. Behind her, the pantry door was open. No tape, no scratches, no sound. The shelves looked normal: cereal, rice, paper towels, cleaning spray, a clean empty space where the tape roll used to be. That was almost worse than seeing it sealed shut. A week later, I found the listing by accident. I was not looking for it, not really. I was scrolling rentals because the room I found was temporary, and there it was. Same apartment, same kitchen, same narrow hallway, same pantry door beside the fridge. The headline said quiet room in respectful shared apartment. There were 6 photos: bedroom, living room, kitchen, bathroom, front hallway. The last photo showed the pantry. The door was open. Inside, on the second shelf between a box of cereal and a roll of paper towels, was a brand new roll of blue painter's tape. Still in the plastic. The listing description said the building was peaceful. It said the roommates were considerate. It said quiet hours were strictly respected. Technically, I guess all of that was true, as long as no one answered. The first warning showed up as a calendar invite. Not a note under my door, not a text from a blocked number, not a voice in the hallway. A calendar invite. That was why I ignored it at first. I had moved into the apartment in Chicago 2 weeks earlier, into a 3rd-floor walk-up above a nail salon and a closed-down insurance office. The stairs smelled like old takeout and radiator heat. The front door buzzer worked only if you pressed it twice. The laundry machines in the basement took quarters, but only if the coin slot was in a good mood. It was not a perfect apartment, but it was clean enough, close enough to the train, and cheap enough that I stopped looking after Maya offered me the room. There were 3 other people in the apartment. Maya had the biggest room and treated the place like a small office she was responsible for keeping alive. She worked in project management, which made sense the second she showed me the shared Google Calendar. Everything was on it: trash day, kitchen cleaning, rent due, utility split, laundry slots, quiet hours, overnight guests, even reminders to replace the water filter. If it's not on the calendar, it's not a house issue, she told me. At the time, I liked that. I had lived with messy people before. People who forgot bills, people who denied leaving dishes in the sink, people who said we should all just communicate and then communicated nothing until someone was crying in the kitchen. Maya's system felt grown up. Boring maybe, but safe. Drew was the opposite of Maya. Friendly, loose, always joking. He was the one who helped me carry my mattress up the stairs and said, "Don't worry, the calendar only looks culty for the first week." Lena was quieter. She worked in healthcare admin and liked everything documented. If someone borrowed paper towels, she put it in the house chat. If the landlord fixed something, she saved the receipt. She was not rude, just careful. The first few days were normal. Too normal, maybe. I added my work schedule to the calendar. Maya assigned me Tuesday trash. Drew sent me the Venmo request for utilities. Lena showed me where they kept extra keys for the mailbox. I remember thinking I had gotten lucky. Then on my 4th night there, my phone buzzed at 9:18 p.m. Calendar notification. New event added. Don't answer him. Time 11:40 p.m. There was no location, no description, no guest list, at least not one I could see. Just the title and the time sitting in the shared apartment calendar between Drew Laundry and Trash to Alley. I stared at it for a while. Then I took a screenshot and sent it to the house chat. Who added this? Drew replied first. Probably a sync issue. Maya replied 30 seconds later. Delete it if it bothers you. Lena did not reply. I checked the event again. There was no creator listed. That bothered me because Maya had explained how everything left a trail. Who made it? Who edited it? Who accepted it? That was the point of the system. I typed, "It says 11:40. Is someone coming over?" Maya answered, "No guests tonight." Drew sent a thumbs up emoji. Then Maya added, "If it's not an actual plan, it's not a house issue." I almost laughed because that sounded exactly like her. Clean, reasonable, final. So I deleted the event. Or I thought I did. At 11:39, I was in my room getting ready for bed. The apartment was quiet. Maya's door was closed. Drew was watching something softly in the living room. Lena had gone to sleep early. At 11:40, the intercom buzzed. Not the doorbell to our unit. The old front door intercom from downstairs. It made a harsh electric sound through the speaker by the kitchen, loud enough that I heard Drew swear from the couch. Nobody moved. The buzzer sounded again. Then a man's voice came through the speaker. "It's me." That was all. No name, just those two words. "It's me." I opened my door. Maya was already standing in the hallway. She had come out of her room without turning on the light. Drew was sitting frozen on the couch, remote in one hand. Lena's door was open just a few inches. The buzzer sounded a third time. I whispered, "Who is that?" Maya looked at me, not scared, annoyed, like I had asked the wrong question. "No one," she said. The speaker clicked again. "The man downstairs said I know you're home." Drew turned off the TV. Lena's door closed. Maya walked to the intercom, but she did not press the talk button. She only stood in front of it until the hallway went silent. After about a minute, the buzzing stopped. Maya turned around. "Wrong apartment," she said. Drew nodded too quickly. "Yeah, happens all the time." I looked at my phone. The event was still there. "Don't answer him." 11:40 p.m. Only now the title had changed. It said, "Good." I showed Maya. She did not take the phone. She barely looked. "Calendar glitch," she said. Drew stood up from the couch. Old building, weird buzzer, bad app, perfect Chicago combo. He smiled like that was supposed to close the subject. Lena did not come back out. The next morning, the event was gone from the calendar. Not deleted, gone. No trace in the event history. No notification, no update email, nothing. When I asked Maya about it before work, she poured oat milk into her coffee and said if someone was actually coming over, it would have been on the calendar. I said it was on the calendar. She stirred her coffee. Then I guess it worked. She smiled when she said it, like it was a joke. But Drew sitting at the table behind her did not laugh. And Lena, standing by the sink with her work badge around her neck, looked at my phone like she already knew what would appear there next. The next event appeared 2 nights later. By then, everyone had already decided what the first one was. A glitch, a weird buzzer moment, a wrong apartment, something that did not need to be discussed, because discussing it made the apartment feel less normal. That was the thing about living with organized people. They did not always deny things loudly. Sometimes they just filed them under the wrong label and moved on. Maya put intercom issue in the shared maintenance notes. Drew joked that the building was haunted by bad wiring. Lena added a reminder to ask the landlord about the buzzer, but she marked it low priority. Low priority, that was how the man at 11:40 became small enough to ignore. I tried to let it be small. I really did. The next 2 days were normal. Tuesday trash, Wednesday kitchen wipe down, Drew's laundry slot, my work schedule, Maya's rent reminder. Little colored blocks stacked neatly across the week, making the apartment look cleaner than it felt. Then at 6:03 p.m. on Thursday, my phone buzzed. New event added. Kitchen light will go out. Time 10:13 p.m. I was sitting on my bed eating ramen from a mug because I did not feel like dealing with the kitchen. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen and waited for the event to disappear. It did not. I opened it. No description, no location, no creator. But this time there were guests listed. Maya, Drew, Lena, me. Under each name it said accepted. I had not accepted anything. I screenshotted it and sent it to the house chat. Did anyone else get this? Drew replied with a skull emoji. Maya replied, "Please don't start this again." Again. I typed, "It says the kitchen light is going out at 10:13. Drew wrote, "Honestly, our wiring does give main character energy." Maya wrote, "If the light goes out, we'll replace the bulb." Lena replied last. Screenshots can look weird depending on sync. That sentence bothered me more than Drew's joke. Lena did not say she had not accepted it. She did not say she had never seen it. She said screenshots can look weird. It was the kind of answer someone gives when they are already preparing to question the evidence. At 10:05, I went to the kitchen. Not because I wanted to prove anything, because if the light went out and I was in my room, they would say I had imagined the time wrong. Drew was on the couch scrolling through his phone. Maya was at the table with her laptop open. Lena stood at the sink washing a plate slowly, even though it had already been clean. The kitchen light was on. I looked at the stove clock. 10:11. Maya noticed. "You're watching the clock now." I said the event said 10:13. Drew leaned back on the couch. "If nothing happens, do we all agree to retire from calendar ghost hunting?" Lena turned off the faucet. No one laughed. At 10:13, the kitchen light went out. Not the living room lamp, not the hallway light, not the microwave clock, just the kitchen ceiling light. The room dropped into a dim yellow half-dark from the stove display and Maya's laptop screen. For 1 second, nobody spoke. That second was the only honest thing that happened all night. Then Drew stood up. Bulb. Maya closed her laptop halfway. Old wiring. Lena dried the plate. Maintenance issue. They said it so quickly that I almost believed they had rehearsed it. Drew got a chair from the table and unscrewed the bulb. It was warm, but not burned out. I watched him shake it gently near his ear, like that would explain anything. He put in a spare bulb from under the sink. The light came back on. "There," he said. "Fixed." I opened the calendar again. The event was gone, but the notification was still on my lock screen. "Kitchen light will go out. 10:13 p.m. Accepted by Maya, Drew, Lena." I held up my phone. "You all accepted it." Maya looked annoyed now. "I didn't accept anything." Drew said neither did I. Lena reached for my phone and I pulled it back. "I'm just trying to see." "No," I said. "You're trying to find a reason it doesn't count." That made the room go quiet. Maya stood. Careful. One word. Not loud. Not threatening. But it landed like a warning. Drew raised both hands. "Okay, everybody chill. It's an app thing. Google Calendar acts possessed half the time." Lena looked at me with the flat professional expression she probably used at work when someone was being difficult. "Maybe you're looking at the wrong calendar." I almost laughed. "It's our shared calendar. We have more than one." "No, we don't." Maya said, "We do now." I made a separate one for bills. That was true. She had made it that afternoon. After the event appeared, before the light went out, I looked from Maya to Lena to Drew. Drew would not meet my eyes. Lena picked up her plate and put it in the cabinet. Maya opened her laptop again. Conversation over. I went back to my room and checked the calendar from my laptop instead of my phone. The event was gone there too. No trace, no history, nothing in trash, nothing in email updates. Then a new event appeared for the next morning. 8:05 a.m. She'll ask about the accepted invites. I sat very still. The apartment outside my room was quiet. At 8:04 the next morning, I was standing in front of my closet fully dressed for work, telling myself I would not ask. I would not give it the satisfaction. I would not give Maya another chance to say I was making a thing out of it. At 8:05, Maya knocked on my door. When I opened it, she was holding her coffee. Her face was calm, too calm. She said, "Are you still worried about the calendar thing?" I did not answer. I did not have to. From the kitchen table, Drew looked down at his phone and pretended not to hear. Lena stood by the sink watching me over the rim of her mug. And for the first time, I understood that the calendar was not just predicting what would happen. It was teaching them what to say after it did. After that morning, I stopped checking the calendar first thing when I woke up. That sounds small, but in that apartment, it was almost impossible. Everything went through the calendar. If I wanted to do laundry, calendar. If I needed to clean the kitchen, calendar. If someone had a guest over, calendar. Maya had built the whole apartment around the idea that if something was written down, everyone had to respect it. Now I was starting to feel like the calendar respected something else first. For one day, nothing strange appeared. No warning, no invite, no block of text sitting in the middle of the week like a threat pretending to be organization. I let myself relax a little. Then Friday night, while I was eating dinner at the kitchen counter, my phone buzzed. New event added. Drew will laugh. Time 7:42 p.m. I looked at the stove clock. 7:41. Drew was in the living room watching short videos on his phone. Maya was at the table answering emails. Lena was sorting mail by the door. I did not say anything. I watched the minute change. 7:42. Drew laughed. Not at me, not at the calendar, at something on his phone. It was a short laugh, normal and stupid. The kind of laugh people make 100 times a day without thinking about it. That made it worse. The event vanished before I could screenshot it. I went cold all over. A minute later, another event appeared. Maya will say it's not a house issue. I looked at her. She must have felt me staring because she glanced up from her laptop. What? I said nothing. Drew paused his video. Calendar again. I did not answer fast enough. Maya closed her laptop halfway. If this is about another weird notification, it's not a house issue unless it affects the apartment. The event disappeared. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. Lena looked over. Careful. I turned to her. What does that mean? She held up both hands slightly. The chair? But I knew what she meant. At 8:10 the next event appeared. Lena will ask for documentation. I took a screenshot immediately. This time it stayed. I showed them. Maya sighed. Drew leaned back on the couch. Lena took the phone from my hand before I could stop her. She looked at the screenshot for a long time. Then she said, "Can you send me this?" "Why?" "So we have documentation." Drew muttered, "Okay, that one's creepy." Maya shot him a look. He stopped talking. Lena sent herself the screenshot from my phone, then handed it back. "It still could be a sync issue. You just did exactly what it said. I asked for documentation because that's the reasonable thing to do. That's the point." She looked at me like I had disappointed her. "No, the point is you're assigning meaning to random app behavior." Maya nodded. "Exactly." Drew said nothing. That night the events got more specific. Do not mention the hallway. It appeared at 10:28 p.m. I was sitting on my bed, door open, trying to decide whether to brush my teeth before or after Drew finished in the bathroom. When I saw the words, I stood up. The hallway outside my room was empty. The apartment was quiet. Then I heard footsteps. Not from the living room, not from the kitchen, from directly outside my door. One step, then another, then nothing. I waited. The motion sensor light in the hall did not turn on. It always turned on when someone crossed from the kitchen to the bathroom. Even when Drew moved fast. Even when Lena walked barefoot. It was cheap and too sensitive. But now it stayed dark. I stepped to my doorway and looked out. No one was there. Maya's door was closed. Drew was still in the bathroom with the fan running. Lena's room was dark. On the floor outside my door was a package. My package. A small Amazon envelope I had seen downstairs in the lobby earlier that afternoon. I had left it there because my hands were full and planned to grab it later. Now it was inside the apartment. Outside my room, I did not pick it up. I went to the house chat and typed, "Did someone bring my package upstairs?" Before I sent it, another calendar notification appeared. "She'll ask about the package." My thumb froze over the screen. Then from the kitchen, Maya called out, "Is everything okay?" Her door was still closed. I had not made a sound. I deleted the message. The next morning, I set up my phone inside my room facing the door. Not the hallway, not a shared space. My own door from inside my own room. If someone tried the knob, I wanted to know. I did not tell them. At 2:22 a.m. the knob turned. Only once. Slowly. The door did not open because I had locked it. The knob rotated as far as it could stop and turned back. No knock. No voice. No footsteps leaving. I watched the video in the morning with my stomach tight and my hands cold. Then the calendar buzzed. New event added. Now she has video. I opened it. For the first time, there was a creator listed. Me. My email address. My profile picture. My account. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then I checked my sent invites. Nothing. I checked recently deleted. Nothing. I checked login activity. No new device. No warning from Google. Just the event sitting there on the shared apartment calendar, created by me saying something I had not told anyone yet. When I finally came out of my room, Maya was already at the kitchen table. Lena stood by the sink. Drew sat on the couch not watching anything. It felt like they had been waiting. Maya looked at my phone in my hand, then at me. "You need to show us what you recorded," she said. I asked, "How did you know?" No one answered. The calendar notification sat on my lock screen between my work alarm and a reminder to buy detergent. Now she has video, accepted by Maya, Drew, Lena, and me. I showed them the video because I still thought evidence mattered. That was my mistake. I set my phone on the kitchen table and played the clip. The frame showed the inside of my bedroom door, dark except for the thin hallway light under the gap. At 2:22, the knob moved, slowly, all the way to the right, then back. No one spoke. I looked at Maya first because she was the one who cared about systems and proof. Then Lena because she cared about documentation. Then Drew because I thought maybe the normal part of him would finally say what we were all seeing. Instead, Maya asked, "Why were you recording your door?" I stared at her. "Because someone tried to open it." "But why were you ready for that?" That question hit me harder than it should have. Lena leaned closer to the phone. "Can you show us the file info?" I took the phone back. "What?" "The timestamp, file details, whether it was edited." "It's a phone video." Drew rubbed his jaw. "I mean, it is kind of hard to tell what we're looking at. It's my doorknob turning." "Yeah, but we don't see who did it." "That's the point." Maya folded her arms. "No, the point is you set up a camera in the apartment without telling anyone. It was inside my room, facing the door. My door." Lena said it still records a shared boundary. A shared boundary. That was how fast they did it. Someone had tried to enter my locked room at 2:22 in the morning, and within 1 minute we were discussing whether my door counted as shared space. I opened the calendar and showed them the event. Now she has video, created by my account, accepted by all 4 of us. Maya looked at the creator line. "That came from your email." "I didn't make it." Lena said, "Then your account is compromised." I checked. It isn't. "Then maybe you scheduled it and forgot," Drew said, "or some automation thing, like maybe you connected something." I looked at him. "You think I accidentally automated a calendar event about a video I hadn't shown anyone?" He looked down. "I'm just saying tech is weird." Maya stood up. "I think we need to pause." That was her phrase for ending conversations she was losing. But the calendar did not pause. At 12:04 p.m., while all of us were still in the kitchen, every phone buzzed at once. New event added. House meeting. Time 8 p.m. Location kitchen. Maya looked at her phone. Lena looked at hers. Drew muttered, "Nope." I did not touch mine. The event had already marked everyone as attending. At 8 o'clock, they were all there. That was the part I could not stop thinking about later. They all said the calendar was a glitch. They all said it was random. They all said I was assigning meaning where there was none. But when it told them to be in the kitchen at 8, they came. Lena had a folder, an actual folder. Inside were printed screenshots. The hallway package message I had started typing and never sent pulled from the group chat draft preview somehow. The calendar events created from my account. A still from my bedroom video showing my own hand reaching toward the phone at the end. A copy of the lease addendum about roommate safety. I looked at Maya. "You printed these." Lena answered. "I did." "When?" "Today." "Why?" "Because things need to be documented." The calendar had said she would ask for documentation. Now documentation was becoming a weapon. Maya started the meeting like she was managing a work call. "We're not here to attack anyone. We're here because the apartment has stopped feeling safe." I said, "For me." She nodded too quickly. "For everyone." Drew sat beside her and would not look at me. Lena slid one paper across the table. It was a screenshot of the event with my email as creator. She said, "Whether you remember making these or not, they are coming from your account." "I didn't make them." "Then you need to secure your account." "I did." "Then we need to discuss the other possibility." I waited. She said it carefully. "That stress is causing you to do things you don't remember." I laughed once. It came out too sharp. "You mean I'm making calendar events to scare myself moving packages outside my own door and turning my own doorknob at 2 in the morning?" Maya said, "No one said that." "You're all saying that." Drew finally spoke. "We're saying we don't know what else to think." That sounded honest. It was also cowardly. I pulled up the video again, then explained this. Maya did not look. Lena did not look. Drew looked for half a second, then looked away. The calendar buzzed. "Not all phones, just mine. New event added. They'll feel better after she leaves." The room went completely silent. This time I did not show them right away. I watched their faces first. Maya was staring at my phone like she already knew. Lena's mouth tightened. Drew closed his eyes. I turned the screen toward them. The event sat there bright and clean. They'll feel better after she leaves. Created by me. Accepted by Maya. Accepted by Lena. Accepted by Drew. Maya reached across the table. Delete it. I pulled the phone back. No, delete it. Why? It's just a sync issue. No one answered. That was the first time I saw fear on Maya's face. Not fear of the calendar, fear that I had noticed the wrong part. Lena closed the folder. I think it would be best if you found another place. Drew whispered, maybe just temporarily. Maya looked relieved when he said that. Temporarily was softer, cleaner, easier to tell other people. I stood up. You all know this isn't me. Lena looked at the folder. Maya looked at the calendar. Drew looked at the floor. No one denied it. No one admitted it either. That was worse. Because by then I understood the apartment had a system. The calendar created the event. The roommates created the explanation. And I was the only one still pretending those were different things. I started looking for another room that night. Not because I agreed with them. Because there is a point where being right stops helping you. Maya sent me 2 listings the next morning. That was the kind of person she was. She could help remove you from a home and still make it look like organization. Drew offered to help carry boxes when I found a place. Lena sent a long message about wanting the transition to be respectful for everyone. Respectful. That word followed me around the apartment for the next 3 days. Respectful meant I stopped talking about the calendar. Respectful meant I did not mention the package outside my door. Respectful meant I deleted the video from my phone after Lena asked me 3 times. Respectful meant everyone got to call what was happening, a roommate issue, instead of saying the apartment had chosen someone to push out. I found a temporary room in Logan Square through a coworker's cousin. It was smaller, more expensive, no shared calendar. That mattered more than square footage. Before I left, I requested a full export of my Google data. I did it out of anger more than hope. I wanted something, anything, a log, a hidden creator ID, a timestamp that proved the events were not coming from me. I knew enough about tech to know I probably would not get a clean answer, but I needed to try. The export arrived the night before I moved out. I sat on my bedroom floor between half-packed boxes and opened it on my laptop. Most of it was useless. Regular events, work shifts, utility reminders, trash day, house meeting, all the normal things mixed with the things everyone had agreed to call glitches. Then I found a hidden calendar, not deleted, hidden. The title was Unit 3 Shared. I had never seen it before. It had events going back months before I moved in. At first they looked like normal house reminders. Filter change, rent due, kitchen clean. Then the titles changed. Don't answer him. She'll ask about the hallway. Tell her it's stress. Make sure Lena documents it. Remove her from lease. I stopped breathing for a few seconds. Her, not me. The dates were from 6 months earlier. Before my sublet, before I knew any of them. I clicked the last event before the calendar went quiet. Natalie will leave today. Time 8 a.m. Location kitchen. There were 4 guests. Maya, Drew, Lena, Natalie, all marked attending. I took screenshots of everything. Then I did something stupid. I walked out of my room and knocked on Maya's door. She opened it in pajama pants and an old college sweatshirt. She looked tired, not surprised. Who was Natalie? The name changed her face. Only for a second, but I saw it. She said old roommate. What happened to her? She wasn't a good fit. The exact sentence came too fast, like it had been used before. I held up my laptop. There's a hidden calendar. Maya did not look at the screen. That was how I knew she already knew what was on it. I said, the same things happened to her. Maya stepped into the hallway and pulled her door almost closed behind her. You should stop digging through house data. House data. You requested an export from a shared system. It was my account. It affects everyone. Drew appeared behind her, coming from the kitchen with a glass of water. He heard enough to understand and immediately looked uncomfortable. I asked him, did you know about Natalie? He looked at Maya first, then at me. She moved out before you got here. That's not what I asked. Lena's door opened. Of course it did. She stood there with her phone in one hand. Maya said, we are not doing this tonight. The calendar buzzed on my laptop. I looked down. New event added. She found Natalie. No one moved. No one asked what the sound was. Lena looked at her phone. Drew whispered, delete it. I asked why it's just a glitch. Maya closed her eyes. For the first time since I had moved in, she looked genuinely scared. Not of me, of the fact that I was using her own words back at her. I left the next morning. No one helped me carry boxes. Drew stood in the doorway once, then changed his mind and went back inside. Lena stayed in her room. Maya sent my remaining deposit through Venmo with a memo that said good luck. That was it. Good luck. Clean, polite, documented. I blocked the shared calendar before I pulled away from the curb. I removed myself from the house chat. I changed my Google password at a coffee shop 15 minutes later. I turned on two-factor authentication. I checked logged-in devices. I did everything you are supposed to do when a normal problem has a normal solution. For 2 days, nothing happened. The new room was quiet. My new roommates were barely home. Nobody used a shared calendar. Nobody asked me to document anything. I started to feel foolish in that exhausted way you feel after surviving something people can still explain away. Then on the third night, my phone buzzed at 11:32. Calendar notification. New event added. It was not on the old shared calendar. It was on my personal one, the one I had never shared with Maya, Drew, Lena, or anyone from that apartment. Natalie asked too. Time 11:40 p.m. Location, the old apartment address. I deleted it immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. 5 minutes later it came back. Same title, same time, same address. Only one thing had changed. This time I was marked as attending. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the screen until it went dark. At 11:40 my phone buzzed again. Not a calendar alert. A message from an unknown number. No words. Just a screenshot. A calendar event from 6 months earlier. Natalie will leave today. Under the guest list, one name had been added. Mine, accepted. The third bedroom was supposed to be empty. That was the first thing Claire told me. Not because I asked, because she needed me to know before I noticed it myself. I found the apartment on Facebook Marketplace while sitting in my car outside a Whataburger in North Austin. I had moved for a job that sounded better in the interview than it felt in real life, and by the second week I was already tired of sleeping on a coworker's couch. The listing said private room in quiet 3-bedroom apartment. Shared bathroom. Utilities split evenly. No smoking, no pets, respectful roommates. Respectful. I should have learned to be suspicious of that word. The apartment was in one of those older 2-story complexes with outdoor walkways, a small pool nobody used, and parking spots that were never empty when you got home after 6. It was not bad. Beige walls, cheap carpet, kitchen with fake wood cabinets, air conditioner that clicked hard before turning on. Normal enough that I handed over the deposit before I had fully learned the shape of the place. Claire was the one who showed me around. She was calm in a way that felt professional. Not warm exactly, but controlled. She had labels on the fridge shelves, a printed trash schedule taped inside a cabinet, and a small basket in the bathroom for guest towels, even though she said they never really had guests. Ben was the other roommate. He worked hybrid for some software company and seemed tired before any conversation started. He shook my hand, said, "Glad we found someone normal," then went back to his laptop at the dining table. Claire showed me my room first. It was small, but it had a window facing the parking lot and enough space for a bed and desk. Across the hall was the shared bathroom. At the end of the hallway was another door, closed, no light under it, no sound. Claire pointed to it before I could ask. "That room is storage," she said. "Landlord stuff, we don't use it." Ben from the dining table added, "Nobody uses that room." The way he said it made the sentence heavier than it needed to be. I nodded. Got it. Claire smiled like I had passed a small test. "It's locked anyway, so don't worry about it." I did not worry about it. Not then. That first evening, everything felt ordinary. Claire showed me my shelf in the fridge, my cabinet for dry food, the Wi-Fi password, the laundry closet, the guest parking rules, and the Venmo schedule for utilities. Ben told me which neighbors complained about noise and which parking spaces to avoid because the sprinklers hit them in the morning. No one mentioned the empty room again. At 11:30 I went to bed. I was exhausted enough that I thought I would sleep hard, but the apartment had unfamiliar sounds. The AC clicking on, someone's TV through the wall, a truck backing up somewhere in the complex. I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to convince my body that this was home now. Then I heard a floorboard creak. Not in the hallway, not in Claire's room. From the room at the end. One step, a pause, then another. The sound was soft but clear, carpet pressing down, weight shifting, someone walking slowly inside the room that nobody used. I sat up. For a while I just listened. No door opened, no voices, no movement from Claire or Ben. The steps stopped after maybe 20 seconds, leaving the apartment quiet enough that I could hear my own breathing. I told myself it was the building. Old apartment, settling wood, pipes, neighbors, anything but what it sounded like. In the morning, I almost convinced myself I had dreamed it. Then I walked into the hallway. There was light under the storage room door. A thin yellow line, not bright, not enough to fill the hall, just enough to prove something inside was on. I stood there in my socks staring at it. Claire came out of the bathroom behind me with wet hair and a towel around her shoulders. She followed my eyes to the door. For 1 second, she did not move. Then she stepped forward and placed her bare foot directly over the line of light. Casual, exact, like she had done it before. "Morning," she said. I looked at her foot, then at her face. "Is there a light on in there?" She smiled, but her eyes did not change. "Probably from the hallway. The hallway light is off." Ben appeared from the kitchen holding a coffee mug. Claire did not look away from me. "It's storage," she said. Ben took one look at the door and turned back toward the kitchen. "Nobody uses that room." He said it the same way as before. Same words, same tone, like repetition could make a door empty. Claire stepped away from the light and walked past me toward the kitchen. The yellow line was still there, thinner now, but still there. I stood in the hallway another few seconds waiting for one of them to say something normal. Something like, maybe the landlord left a lamp plugged in. Maybe there is a maintenance panel. Maybe we should check. Neither of them did. So I went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth, and went to work. Because I was new. Because my name had barely made it onto the lease. Because in shared apartments the first rule is never written down. You learn it by watching everyone else. If nobody else reacts, you pretend there is nothing to react to. By the end of that week, I had learned most of the apartment's small routines. Claire woke up at 6 and made coffee before anyone else touched the kitchen. Ben worked at the dining table until noon, then moved to his room for calls. The upstairs neighbor showered at 7:15 every morning, and the pipes made a knocking sound for 3 minutes after. The AC clicked twice before turning on. The mail came around 4. I liked knowing these things. Routines make a place feel safer. That was why the 4th toothbrush bothered me. The bathroom sink had one plastic cup near the mirror. Mine was gray. Claire's was pink. Ben's was blue. 3 toothbrushes, 3 people. Simple. Then one morning there were 4. The 4th one was white with a green stripe down the handle. It sat behind the others, almost hidden unless you were standing directly in front of the sink. The bristles were wet. I stood there with toothpaste on my own brush looking at it. Claire passed the bathroom door. I said, "Whose toothbrush is that?" She stopped. Not long. Just enough. Then she looked in and said, "What toothbrush?" I pointed. "That one." She leaned in like she was seeing it for the first time. "Oh, that's probably old. It's wet." She smiled the way adults smile at children who ask why the moon follows the car. Bathrooms are humid. I looked at the mirror. The fan was off. No one had showered yet. Ben walked by with his laptop under one arm. Claire said, "Ben, do you know whose that is?" He glanced into the bathroom. His eyes moved to the white and green toothbrush, then away. No idea. Then he kept walking. That became the rhythm of the next few days. I would notice something. They would make it smaller. In the fridge there were 3 labeled shelves when I moved in. Claire, Ben, my name. On Friday there was a plastic container of pasta on the top shelf with blue painter's tape across the lid. Room C. I stood in front of the open fridge long enough for the cold air to start hurting my hand. Claire came in behind me. "That yours?" I asked. She reached around me for oat milk. "No, Ben's. Number." "Then whose room C?" She shook the oat milk and did not look at me. "Storage." I turned. "Storage has pasta." She poured her coffee slowly. It's just an old label. It was not there yesterday. She set the carton down. You just moved in. You're still learning where everything goes. That answer did not fit the question, but she said it with enough confidence that I felt myself hesitate. Ben came in while I was still standing there. I asked him, do we split groceries with the storage room too? He looked at Claire first. Then he said, don't overthink the labels. The pasta was gone the next morning. The container was washed and drying beside the sink. No one mentioned it. After that, I started seeing room C everywhere. Not constantly. That would have been easier somehow. It appeared in small, useful ways, the way a real person leaves evidence without meaning to. A fourth placemat at the dining table, a clean fork set beside it, a glass of water near the chair closest to the hallway. That chair was always pulled out slightly farther than the others, as if someone had just stood up from it. One night I came home late and found a pair of house slippers near the hallway wall. Not Claire's, not Ben's, not mine. Small gray slippers' toes pointed toward the locked door. By morning they were gone. The utility request came on Sunday. Claire sent it through Venmo with a spreadsheet attached like always. Electricity, water, internet, trash fee. The total divided cleanly into 4 equal shares. 4. I stared at the line for a full minute. Claire had already marked 1 share paid. Room C. I walked into the living room with my phone in my hand. Claire was on the couch reading. Ben was at the dining table typing. Why are utilities split 4 ways? Claire did not look up. That's how the sheet calculates. You made the sheet. Maya from the old apartment made the template. I just use it. I had never heard her mention Maya before. Ben stopped typing. I looked at him. Is someone else paying rent here? He rubbed his eyes. Number. Then who is room C? Claire closed her book around one finger to save the page. It's storage. Storage pays utilities. It's an accounting thing. What does that mean? She finally looked at me. It means you don't need to worry about it. That night, I woke up at 2:30 to the sound of a spoon hitting a bowl. Not loud, just one small clink, then another. From the kitchen. I lay still for a few seconds waiting for Claire or Ben to move around, but no doors opened, no microwave beeped, no faucet ran. I got up and stepped into the hall. The kitchen was empty. The overhead light was off, but the stove clock gave enough glow to show the counter. There was a bowl beside the sink. Not dirty exactly, used. A thin ring of milk at the bottom, a spoon resting inside it. Next to the bowl was a small square of blue painter's tape. Room C. I heard something behind me. Not a step, a shift, like weight settling on the other side of the locked door at the end of the hallway. I turned slowly. No light under the door now, no sound, only that closed door. When I looked back at the kitchen, Ben was standing in his bedroom doorway. He had not been there before. His face was pale in the stove light. I said, "Did you hear that?" He looked at the bowl, then at the label, then at me. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," he said. I asked harder for who. He went back into his room and closed the door. In the morning, the bowl was gone. The 4th toothbrush was dry, and the chair near the hallway was pushed neatly under the table like someone had decided to be polite. The first time I asked Claire to open the storage room, she said no too quickly. It was Saturday morning. Ben was at the dining table with headphones on, and Claire was cleaning the kitchen counter, even though it was already clean. I had waited until daylight because that seemed fair, reasonable, less dramatic. If the room was storage, then opening it during the day should not have been a problem. I said, "Can I see what's in there?" Claire did not look up. "In where?" "The storage room." Her hand stopped moving for half a second. Then she kept wiping the counter. "No." "Why?" "Landlord stuff. I just want to know what's on the other side of my wall." Ben took one headphone off. Claire folded the paper towel and threw it away. "It's locked." "Do you have a key?" "No." She said it cleanly, no hesitation, no extra words. I nodded because there was nowhere for the conversation to go after that. 10 minutes later, I saw her standing outside the storage room door with a key in her hand. She was not opening it. That was the part that made it worse. She was just standing there, facing the door, holding the key near the lock, like she was waiting for permission from the other side. I had come out of the bathroom and stopped in the hallway. Claire did not turn around. I said I thought you didn't have a key. She stayed still. Then she said I said I don't use it. It was such a careful correction that I knew she had been waiting to make it. I looked at the key. Then why are you holding it? Ben appeared behind me, not from his room, from the kitchen. I had not heard him move. Don't make Claire deal with this, he said. I turned to him. Deal with what? He looked exhausted. You keep pushing. I'm asking about a locked room in the apartment I live in. Claire lowered the key and slipped it into her pocket. You rent your room, she said, not the whole apartment. That was the first time she made the difference clear. My room. Their apartment. The room at the end of the hall. Something else. After that, I started taking pictures. Not to send to anyone, not yet, just to keep my own head straight. The fourth toothbrush white with the green stripe wet at 7 a.m. The room C container in the fridge gone by evening and replaced 2 days later with another one. The fourth placemat, the chair pulled out. The utility spreadsheet with 4 shares. The Venmo entry marked paid before Claire had even sent the request to me. Room C was always paid first. That detail bothered me more than it should have. People forget bills. People delay. People ask for extensions. Room C never did. Room C paid cleanly, instantly, silently. A perfect roommate if you ignored the fact that nobody would admit it existed. I showed Ben the screenshots one afternoon when Claire was out. He looked through them slowly, not like someone seeing proof for the first time, like someone checking how much I had collected. When he got to the Venmo screenshot, he handed the phone back. You're making a case against the apartment. No, I said. I'm asking who lives here. The people on the lease. Claire, you, me. He nodded. That's the answer. Then why are utilities split 4 ways? He looked toward the hallway. Because Claire likes clean numbers. That makes no sense. A lot of this won't if you keep trying to make it. I stared at him. What does that mean? He rubbed his eyes with both hands. It means you should stop before Claire has to explain you to the landlord. That was when I understood Ben was not warning me about Claire. He was warning me about the process. That night I checked my lease copy in my email. 3 names, Claire, Ben, mine, no 4th tenant. No storage clause except 1 line saying landlord retained access to 1 locked interior room for property storage. Interior room, not bedroom. Not storage bedroom, just interior room. I searched my email for room C and found nothing. Then my phone buzzed. Venmo request from Claire. Utilities 4-way split. The amount was lower than it should have been for 3 people because it had been divided into 4. I opened the app. Under Claire's request was another transaction already completed. A payment from an account with no profile picture. Username C_storage. Same amount. Same memo. Utilities. I sat on my bed staring at it until the screen dimmed. Then from the wall beside me came 3 soft knocks. Not from the hallway. From inside the storage room, my bedroom shared a wall with it. 3 knocks. A pause. 3 more. I did not move. The knocks came again lower this time, close to the floor, like someone crouched on the other side. I opened the house chat and typed, "There is someone knocking from inside the storage room." I did not send it. A second later, Ben texted me privately. "Don't. Just that. Don't." I looked at the wall. The knocking stopped. Then very softly from the other side, something scraped against the baseboard. A slow drag, like a chair leg being pulled across carpet. In the morning, the chair at the dining table near the hallway was pulled out again. On the seat was a folded paper napkin. Nothing written on it, nothing strange except where it was placed. Claire picked it up before I could touch it and threw it away. I said, "Why did you do that?" She rinsed her hands at the sink. "Because you were about to turn it into something." Ben looked down into his coffee. No one said room C. No one had to. I lasted 3 more days before I said it out loud. I tried not to. I tried to be reasonable. I went to work. I came home. I used my shelf in the fridge. I paid the utility request even though the 4th share still sat there marked paid by an account no one would explain. I stepped around the chair near the hallway when it was pulled out. I stopped asking about the 4th toothbrush. I stopped looking too long at the food labeled room C. That is what scared me most. How fast I learned to stop looking. On Wednesday night, Claire made dinner. Pasta salad, garlic bread from the freezer. She said it was because she had cooked too much and did not want leftovers. Ben sat at the dining table. I sat across from him. The 4th placemat was there, like always, set neatly between my chair and the hallway. No one sat at it, but Claire served 4 plates. She put 1 in front of herself. one in front of Ben, one in front of me. The fourth she placed at the empty setting. Then she caught me looking. Her hand paused over the plate. I said, "Why did you do that?" Claire looked at the fourth plate, then at me. "Do what?" Ben put his fork down. I pointed. "That. You made a plate for room C." The name came out before I could stop it. The apartment changed. Not physically. Nothing moved. The lights did not flicker. The locked door did not open. But Claire's face went flat in a way I had not seen before. Ben whispered, "Don't." I looked at him. "No, I'm done. I think someone is living in that room." Claire set the serving spoon down carefully. "That's a serious accusation. There's food, a toothbrush, utility payments, footsteps, knocking from my wall. You are assigning meaning to house systems you don't understand." I laughed once. It sounded wrong in the room. House systems. Claire's voice stayed calm. "Yes, systems, labels, storage, smamish payment categories, things that existed before you moved in. Someone sent money from an account called C_storage. Ben said, you checked the payment history. You sent it to me." Claire pushed her chair back. "That makes me uncomfortable." For a second, I could not speak. She had done it so cleanly. She had turned the room. I was not the person asking why a locked bedroom had a label in the fridge. I was the person looking too closely at other people's payments. Ben leaned forward. "Nobody wants to live with someone who watches everything." I stared at him. "You hear it too." His eyes went to the hallway. Claire noticed. "Ben." He looked down. I said, "You both hear it. You both see it. You just keep acting like I'm the problem because I'm new." Claire stood. "You are the problem right now." The fourth plate sat untouched on the table, steam still rising from the pasta. Then from the hallway, the locked room knocked. 3 times. Slow. Patient. Nobody moved. Claire did not turn around. Ben closed his eyes. I looked from one to the other, waiting, begging silently for one of them to admit that a room they called storage had just answered a conversation. Claire picked up her phone. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Documenting this." "Documenting what?" "That you are escalating." She typed fast. A minute later, my phone buzzed. Group text with the landlord. Claire had written, "New roommate keeps asking about locked storage room and making accusations. Please advise." The landlord replied almost immediately. "Please do not disturb stored property. Locked room is not included in tenant access." That was it. No question. No what accusations. No why is she concerned. Just a reminder that I was not allowed to touch the door. I said, "You already told him what to think." Claire looked at me over her phone. I told him what happened. Behind her, the fourth plate shifted. Not far, just an inch. The fork scraped against the plate with a tiny metal sound. Ben stood so fast his chair hit the wall. Claire finally turned. The plate was still. The hallway was empty. The locked door remained closed. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. No area code I recognize. So recognize The message said, "Stop making them explain me." I read it twice. Then I held the phone out to Claire. She did not take it. She looked at the screen long enough to read the words. Her face went pale. Not surprised. Pale. I whispered, "What is this?" Claire swallowed. "You shouldn't have given it your number." I almost dropped the phone. I didn't. Ben backed toward the kitchen. Claire stepped away from the table and picked up the fourth plate. Her hands were shaking now. Not much, but enough that the fork slid toward the edge. She carried the plate to the trash and scraped the food into it. Then she washed the plate, slowly, thoroughly, like the meal had been the mistake. I said, "Claire?" She did not look at me. "You need to start finding another place." The locked room knocked once, very softly, not at the door, at the wall beside my bedroom, like it knew exactly where I would be sleeping later. That night, I pushed my dresser against the shared wall. It did not help. At 2:14, my phone lit up again. Same unknown number. No words this time. Just a photo. It showed my bedroom from the corner near the ceiling. I was asleep in bed. The dresser was pressed against the wall. And in the photo, written in black marker across the top of the image, were 2 words. Room C. I did not sleep after the photo. There are things your mind can explain away when they happen outside your door. Sounds, lights, labels. A chair pulled out from a table. A toothbrush that nobody admits belongs to anyone. But a photo of you asleep in your own room is different. It ends the argument. I sat on the edge of the bed until sunrise, holding my phone with both hands, looking at the image over and over. The angle made no sense. It had been taken from high in the corner near the ceiling where there was no shelf, no vent, no camera. I checked twice. I stood on my chair and ran my fingers along the wall. Smooth paint, no hole, no device, nothing. At 7:10, Claire knocked. Not hard, 2 polite taps. I opened the door with the phone still in my hand. She stood in the hallway, already dressed for work. Ben was behind her near the kitchen, pretending to make coffee. Claire looked at my packed expression before she looked at the screen. "You got another message," she said. Not a question. I held it up. She barely glanced at it. "You should leave today." I stared at her. "That's what you're worried about." Her mouth tightened. "I'm worried about what happens if you stay." Ben looked up from his mug. "She's right." I laughed because there was nothing else left. "She's right. Something took a picture of me sleeping." Claire lowered her voice. "And you kept asking about it." That was the cleanest version of their logic. If I had not asked, maybe it would not have looked back. If I had not noticed, maybe it would have stayed polite. If I had not said room C out loud, maybe I could have kept paying my share and stepping around the 4th chair like everyone else. I packed in less than an hour. Not neatly. Clothes into bags, laptop into backpack, bathroom stuff into a grocery sack. I left a cheap lamp, a laundry hamper, and half a box of cereal because I could not stand being in the apartment long enough to care. The place was quiet while I packed. No knocking, no light under the door, no chair scraping in the kitchen. Even the 4th toothbrush was gone from the bathroom cup when I checked. Only 3 remained. Claire's pink one, Ben's blue one, my gray one. For a second, that almost made me feel better. Then I saw my toothbrush was dry, bone dry, like it had not been used in days. Claire gave me part of my deposit back through Venmo while I was carrying the first bags to my car. The memo said, room transfer, not deposit, not refund, room transfer. I did not ask her to change it. I already knew what would happen if I did. Ben helped carry 1 box down, but he would not meet my eyes. At the bottom of the stairs, he set it beside my car and said, "You'll feel better somewhere simpler." I said, "Who was before me?" He looked toward the 2nd floor walkway. "Don't. Who did I replace?" He swallowed. "That's not how it works." Before I could ask what that meant, Claire called his name from upstairs. He went back without another word. I thought I was done. I had my bags in the car, my phone charger, my work clothes, my laptop. I had given Claire the key. I had nothing left to prove and nobody left to convince. Then I realized I had left my jacket hanging on the back of my bedroom door. I almost drove away without it. I should have. When I went back up, the apartment door was open. Not wide, just enough. Claire and Ben were in the kitchen. Both of them looked at me when I stepped inside. "Jacket," I said. Claire nodded once. I went down the hallway. The storage room door was open. Only a few inches. I stopped. For the first time since I moved in, there was no light under it. No sound behind it. No pressure in the hallway. Just an open door. Claire said from the kitchen, "You don't need to go in there." That made me turn the knob. The room was empty. Completely empty. No storage boxes, no landlord's furniture, no shelves, no lamp, no bed, no clothes, no proof that anything had ever occupied it. Just beige carpet blank walls and a folding chair placed in the center of the room. On the chair was a stack of papers. I knew what they were before I touched them. A copy of my lease, the one I had signed at the kitchen table 2 weeks earlier. My name was on the first page. Then it had been crossed out in thick black marker. Not cleanly, again and again until the paper had almost torn. Under it, in the same block letters Claire used on the fridge label, someone had written, "Room C." I stood there with the papers in my hand. Behind me, Claire spoke from the doorway. "You weren't supposed to go in there." I turned around. She and Ben stood side by side in the hall. Not scared now, tired, like I had failed a test they had both hoped I would pass. I asked, "Who am I replacing?" Ben looked at the floor. Claire said, "That's not how it works." I walked past them without the jacket. I left the lease copy on the chair. A week later, I saw the listing online. Same apartment, same beige walls, same pool outside, same kitchen with the labeled shelves. The description said quiet room available in respectful 3-bedroom apartment, 2 roommates, 1 storage room. Utilities split evenly. There were 7 photos. In the bathroom photo, the mirror showed the sink from an angle. 3 toothbrushes sat in the cup. At first, that was all I saw. Then I looked closer at the reflection. On the counter behind the person taking the photo was a second cup. Small, clear, almost cropped out. Inside it was a 4th toothbrush. White handle, green stripe, already wet. The room was listed as empty, but the 4th toothbrush was already waiting. Room 3B was empty. That was what everyone told me. Not once, not casually, repeatedly. I moved into 3A on a cold Monday afternoon, 2 weeks after my old lease fell apart, and 3 days before I had to start a new job across Pittsburgh. The building was a narrow brick place on a one-way street, with cracked front steps, a lobby that smelled like old carpet, and mailboxes so dented that half the doors did not close. It was not a beautiful building, but it was affordable, and by then affordable had started to feel like safety. The room itself was small, 1 window facing the alley, a closet with a broken sliding door, enough space for a bed, a desk, and the boxes I had not unpacked from the last place. The apartment had 2 other tenants, Aaron and Paul, and both of them had lived there long enough to talk about the building, like a relative they did not fully trust. Aaron showed me around first. She was calm in a way that felt earned, not natural. She pointed out which stove burner sparked too long, which cabinet shelf was mine, and how to push the bathroom door upward before closing it so it would latch. She had short dark hair, a steady voice, and the habit of looking at a doorway for half a second before walking through it. Paul was friendlier, but only on the surface. He smiled too fast and joked too often, like he was trying to keep every conversation from settling into the wrong shape. When I asked how long he had lived there, he said, long enough to stop asking building questions. I thought he was being funny. Then Aaron pointed at the wall beside the kitchen, the one we shared with the unit next door. 3B is empty, she said. So, if you hear anything from that side, it's probably pipes or carryover from downstairs. I had not asked about 3B. I looked toward the apartment door, then back at her. Okay? Paul stood near the sink rinsing a mug. Old buildings carry sound, he added. People confuse units all the time. It was such a specific thing to say that I almost asked what he meant. But I was new. New people do not start with questions. New people nod. They make themselves easy. They prove they can live with other people without turning every odd thing into a problem. So I nodded. Good to know. Aaron watched me for a second too long, then continued the tour. There was a building group chat, a laundry room in the basement, mail in the lobby, trash through the rear door, but only before 10 because the alley gate stuck and made too much noise at night. Aaron added me to the group chat, while Paul explained how the laundry app sometimes charged twice, and how nobody used dryer 4 unless they had to. By evening, my boxes were in my room, my sheets were on the mattress, and I had convinced myself I had made a decent choice. That lasted until 1:16 a.m. I was still awake because the radiator kept clicking. Not loud, just often enough to keep me from sinking fully into sleep. I was lying on my side facing the wall I shared with 3B when I heard a door open in the hallway. Not our apartment door, not a bedroom door inside 3A. A door in the building hallway. It opened slowly with the soft scrape of old hinges and the faint slide of a chain lock being drawn back. I sat up. The sound stopped. Then came a very quiet click. A door closing. I waited listening for footsteps. Nothing. No one passed our apartment. No floorboards groaned. No elevator. No stairs. Just the radiator and my own breathing. I told myself someone on the floor had gone out for a smoke. Someone from 3C. Someone from downstairs. Anyone but the empty unit next door. Still, I got out of bed. The hallway inside our apartment was dark. Aaron's door was shut. Paul's door was shut. No light under either one. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. The 3rd floor hallway was empty. The light near the stairs flickered once, then steadied. The carpet looked worn and yellow. Across from the stairwell, the door to 3B sat closed. There was no welcome mat, no shoes, no wreath or old package or tenant sticker, just a brass number that had gone dull with age. 3B. I stood there longer than I should have. Then Paul spoke behind me. "Don't do that." I turned so fast my shoulder hit the door. He was standing at the end of the hallway in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair flattened on one side. His face did not look sleepy. It looked alert. I whispered I heard a door. He glanced toward the peephole. Old building. That sounded like 3B. He smiled, but the smile had no weight in it. People confuse units all the time. He had said the same thing earlier. Same words, same tone. Before I could answer, Erin's door opened. She stepped into the hall already wearing a robe like she had been awake too. "What happened?" Paul said nothing. I looked at him, then at her. I heard 3B open. Erin's eyes moved to the front door. Not to me, to the door. Then she said, "3B is empty." "I know that's what you said. It is empty." Her voice did not rise. That was what made it feel less like reassurance and more like instruction. Paul rubbed the back of his neck. "You probably heard downstairs." I heard the chain. Erin looked at me then. For the first time that night, her expression changed. Not fear exactly, disappointment, like I had already made a mistake. "Don't bring the hallway into the apartment," she said. I almost asked what that meant. I almost should have. But Paul shook his head very slightly. Not at Erin, at me. So I said nothing. The next morning, everything was normal again. Erin made coffee before work. Paul complained about the laundry app. The group chat had 8 unread messages about a package left in the lobby. Nobody mentioned the sound from the hallway. I tried not to either. At noon, I went down to check the mail. My mailbox was empty except for a grocery flyer and a utility notice from the previous tenant. Paul had told me the mailbox is stuck, so I checked the one below mine by mistake before realizing it was 3B. There was a fresh envelope inside. White, clean, not junk mail. The name had been torn off. Not the whole label, just the top half where the recipient would have been. The address line was still intact. Unit 3B, no return address. I stood in the lobby, holding my own mail, staring through the little broken slot into the mailbox next to mine. The envelope sat there like it had arrived that morning. I did not touch it. Behind me, the lobby door opened. Mrs. Danner from the second floor came in carrying a reusable grocery bag. I had met her briefly the day before. She was older, sharp-eyed, with a voice that made every sentence sound like she had considered saying less. She saw me looking at the mailbox. Then she looked at 3B. Her face closed. "Wrong box?" she asked. I stepped back. "Yeah, sorry." She moved to her own mailbox and opened it without looking at me. I said, "Do you know if someone still gets mail there?" Her hand stopped inside the box. For a long second, the lobby was quiet, except for the heater ticking near the floor. Then she said 3B is empty. Same words, same order, same answer everyone gave. I nodded and went upstairs. The envelope was still in the mailbox when I left the lobby. That night before I went to bed, I checked the peephole again. The hallway was empty. The door to 3B was closed, but under it, just barely visible against the old carpet, was a thin line of yellow light. I watched it for maybe 10 seconds. Then I heard Erin's voice from behind me. Soft, very close. "I told you," she said. I turned. She was standing in the dark hallway of our apartment, one hand resting on the wall. "Don't bring it in here." This time she did not say the hallway. She said it. For the next 2 days, I tried to treat 3B like everyone else did. Empty. That was the word. That was the rule. Not abandoned, not locked, not off limits. Empty. It should have been easy. I had my own problems. My new job started at 8 every morning, and I was still unpacking out of cardboard boxes. The room in 3A was cold at night because the window did not seal right. The bathroom faucet dripped unless you turned the handle exactly halfway back. The kitchen drawer with the fork stuck so badly I had to pull it with both hands. Normal apartment problems. Problems people were allowed to talk about. 3B was not one of those. The first time I heard water through the wall, I was brushing my teeth before work. It was 6:20 in the morning, and the apartment was quiet except for Erin moving around in the kitchen. The sound came from the other side of the bathroom wall. Pipes at first, then a clear, steady stream like a shower turning on. I froze with toothpaste in my mouth. 3B shared that wall. I rinsed quickly and stepped into the hallway. Erin was at the counter measuring coffee. I said, "Do the pipes run through the empty unit?" She did not turn around. Old building. I hear water. Pipes. It sounds like a shower. She set the scoop down. Then don't listen to it. That was the first time she sounded irritated. Not scared. Irritated that I had made her answer. Paul came out of his room a second later, buttoning his shirt. "What's up?" Erin said nothing. I said, "There's water running next door." Paul glanced at the shared wall, then at Erin. Then he smiled. "There are tenants above and below us. Sound travels weird." "You always say that." "Because it always does." The water stopped. All three of us heard it stop. No one moved. Erin picked up the coffee scoop again. Paul looked down at his phone. That was how the apartment worked. If a sound ended before someone admitted it happened, then it became old plumbing. If a light disappeared before anyone named it, then it became a reflection. If everyone waited long enough, the truth went back into the wall. That night, the light under 3B was gone. The next night, it came back. Thin, yellow, still. I did not tell Erin. I did not tell Paul. Instead, I went downstairs to do laundry. The basement was colder than the rest of the building. 4 washers on one wall, 4 dryers on the other. A folding table under a buzzing fluorescent light. The laundry app showed dryer 4 as unavailable, even though nobody was using it. I remembered Paul saying nobody used dryer 4 unless they had to. In the corner near the folding table was a white laundry basket. Cheap plastic, rectangular, empty. One handle had a small black burn mark near the corner. I looked at it longer than I meant to. There was nothing dramatic about it. No name written on the side, no blood, no dirt. Just a melted patch on white plastic warped inward like someone had held a lighter against it. Still, I did not want to touch it. I put my clothes in washer 2 and opened the app. A dryer cycle had finished 3 minutes earlier. Dryer 4, completed at 3:12 a.m. User 3B. I stared at the screen. Then I checked again because that is what you do when something impossible appears in a normal app. You refresh. You close it. You open it again. You convince yourself a label can be wrong. The line stayed there. Dryer 4, completed 3:12 a.m. 3B. I took a screenshot. Then I did something I should not have done. I sent a message in the building group chat. Does 3B still have laundry access? For almost 10 minutes, nobody replied. I sat in the laundry room watching the washer fill, feeling my phone heavy in my hand. The white basket remained beside the table, empty, burn mark facing me. Then Erin texted me privately. "Delete that. Not why are you asking? Not what happened. Delete that." I typed, "The laundry app says 3B used dryer 4. Her reply came fast. "Do not bring building issues into the chat." I looked at the group chat again. My message was gone. At first, I thought I had deleted it by mistake, but beneath where it had been was a gray system line, removed by building admin. I had not known there was an admin. I had not known anyone could remove messages that quickly. A new message appeared in the group chat from a number I did not have saved. People confuse units all the time. Then Paul replied with a thumbs up emoji. I stared at that little icon until the washer clicked into its spin cycle. The white basket was still empty when I left the laundry room. But when I got back to the 3rd floor, something had changed. There were wet footprints in front of 3B. Not many. 2 partial prints on the hallway carpet, dark against the old yellow fibers, pointed toward the door. They were bare footprints, adult-sized, narrow, toes visible. They stopped at the threshold. I stood in front of them, holding my laundry bag, listening. From inside 3B came a soft sound. Not water, not footsteps, fabric sliding over plastic, like someone folding clothes into a basket. I backed toward our door. Before I could unlock it, Paul opened it from inside. His eyes went straight to my face. Not the footprints, not 3B, my face. "You went downstairs," he asked, "to do laundry. You posted in the chat." I looked past him into the apartment. Erin stood in the kitchen, arms crossed. I said, "Someone removed it." Paul stepped aside to let me in. Erin said, "Because it was unnecessary." The app said 3B. "Apps reuse old unit labels," she said. "Then why did you tell me to delete it?" "Because people here don't like that kind of question." "What kind?" Erin looked toward the front door. Then she said very softly, "The kind that makes something answer." Behind us in the hallway, something dragged once across the carpet. Long, slow, plastic against fibers. Paul closed our door and locked it. Neither of them looked through the peephole. I did. After they both went to their rooms, I stood at the door and looked out. The hallway was empty. The wet footprints were gone. In front of 3B sat the white laundry basket. Not in the basement anymore. On the third floor, right outside the door, inside it was one dryer sheet. Still warm. I watched it through the peephole until the hallway light flickered off. A second later, from inside 3B, a voice whispered something I could barely hear. It sounded like 2 words. Wrong door. Then the line of yellow light under 3B went dark. After the basket appeared outside 3B, I stopped sleeping through the night. I would wake up around the same time without an alarm, usually a little after 3, sometimes 3:08, sometimes 3:11, once exactly 3:12. I never woke to a sound I could identify. No bang, no voice, no footsteps. Just the feeling that something in the building had shifted while I was asleep, and my body had noticed before my mind did. Every time I checked the hallway, 3B was closed. No light, no basket, no footprints. That should have helped. It did not, because other things started appearing in small, ordinary ways. Mail in the lobby, a shadow under the door, a dryer marked unavailable, a smell of detergent in the hallway when nobody in 3A had done laundry. Nothing big enough to accuse anyone of, nothing clear enough to make Aaron or Paul admit it mattered. I began to notice the words they used. When I said there was a basket outside 3B, Paul said, "People leave laundry stuff everywhere." When I said the dryer app showed 3B again, Aaron said apps reuse old unit labels. When I said my group chat message had been removed, Aaron said, "That's moderation." Every answer made sense on its own. That was the worst part. It was like the building had a drawer full of reasonable explanations, and everyone knew exactly which one to pull out. On Thursday, a package arrived for me. I found it in the lobby after work. Small brown box, my name on the label. The right street address, but the wrong unit. 3B. I stared at it for so long that Mrs. Danner from the second floor noticed. She was at her mailbox holding 2 envelopes and a grocery circular. She looked at the package, then at me, then at the unit number. Her mouth tightened. "Wrong box again," she asked. It has my name. That happens. It says 3B. Her eyes flicked toward the stairs. People confuse units. I heard Aaron's voice in that answer. Paul's too. Everyone's. I picked up the package. "Do you know who lived there before?" Mrs. Danner closed her mailbox. 3B has been empty since before you got here. Since when? She held the envelopes against her chest. Since people stopped asking. Then she walked past me toward the stairs. I followed her without meaning to. What does that mean? She stopped at the first step, but did not turn around. It means you should be careful which empty rooms you keep full with questions. Then she went upstairs. I brought the package into 3A. Aaron was in the kitchen cutting an apple. Paul sat on the couch with a basketball game on mute. Both of them looked at the box before I said anything. "That came from me," I said. Aaron set the knife down. "Then open it. It says 3B. Paul turned the game volume lower, even though it was already almost silent. "Return it." "To who?" Neither of them answered. I put the package on the kitchen table. Aaron looked at it like I had set down something dirty. "Don't leave that in here. It has my name on it. It has the wrong unit. That's what I'm trying to understand." Paul stood and went to the sink, though he had no dish to wash. Sometimes mail gets mislabeled. It was not mislabeled. My name is right. The unit is wrong. Aaron picked up the box by one corner. I thought she was going to throw it away. Instead, she handed it back to me. "Then put it where it says." I looked at her. "You want me to put it outside 3B. I want you not to make it ours." That sentence told me more than she meant it to. Ours. Not mine, not yours. The apartment had borders I did not understand yet. There was 3A. There was the hallway. There was 3B. Aaron's rule was not about safety. It was about keeping those borders intact. I took the package to my room instead. I put it under my desk and told myself I would deal with it in the morning. At 3:12, I woke up. The room was dark. The radiator clicked once. From under my desk came a soft cardboard sound. Not tearing, Not crushing, a shift. I reached for the lamp. The package was gone. My bedroom door was locked. The window was closed. I checked under the bed and the closet behind the boxes I had not unpacked. Nothing. The package had disappeared from a locked room without leaving a mark. I did not wake Aaron or Paul. There was no point. At 7 o'clock when I left for work, the package was outside 3B. Opened. The flaps folded neatly outward. Empty. On the top of the box, written in black marker, were 2 words. Wrong side. I stood in the hallway with my keys in my hand, unable to move. Behind me, 3A opened. Paul stepped out with a travel mug. He saw the box and stopped. For a second, he looked genuinely afraid. Then he looked at me and the fear became annoyance. You put that there. Number? Don't start this before work. Paul. He walked past me toward the stairs. I'm serious. I grabbed the box and followed him down half a flight. Who writes wrong side on an empty package? He turned back so fast coffee spilled onto his hand. People who want you to keep choosing the wrong side. The stairwell went quiet. Paul stared at me. Then he shook his head. Forget I said that. But I could not. At lunch, I searched the building group chat for 3B. No results. I searched laundry. No results. Basket. No results. Wrong door. No results. Then I checked my email where the app sent previews of group messages before they were deleted. I searched there. That was when the old messages appeared. Does anyone know why there's a basket outside 3B? Please don't start this again. Wrong apartment. Do not answer if it knocks. 3A needs to stop asking. There were names I did not recognize. Dates from months before I moved in. Some messages had been removed within minutes. Others had previews, only no full thread. One preview showed a message from Diane. I thought we agreed not to name it in chat. Under it, a reply from Aaron. Then stop making it visible. I sat at my desk at work staring at those words until my supervisor asked if I was okay. When I got home, the hallway outside 3B was clean. No box, no basket, no light. I almost believed the building had reset itself. Then I opened my bedroom door. The empty package was on my bed, still open, still marked wrong side. Inside there was now a folded dryer sheet, warm, and smelling faintly of burnt plastic. I did not sleep with the package in my room. I put it in the hallway, not outside 3B, not inside 3A, just in the hallway halfway between both doors, like a thing I refused to choose for. Then I locked our apartment door and stood there for a while, listening through the wood. Nothing happened. No footsteps, no whisper, no sound of cardboard moving across carpet. But when I opened the door the next morning, the package was gone. In its place was one piece of blue painter's tape stuck to the floor. Not random tape, a clean strip, pressed flat, pointing toward 3B like an arrow. I left it there. At work, I went back through my email previews from the building chat. I searched every word I could think of. 3B basket, laundry, wrong side, door, hallway, knocking. Most searches showed nothing in the actual chat, but the email previews still had fragments. It was like the building had erased the conversation but forgot about the shadows it left behind. One thread was from 9 months earlier. Does anyone know why 3B has mail this soul? Has mail again. Then a reply. Wrong apartment. Another. Please don't start this again. Another thread 3 months later. There's a basket outside 3B. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. A final message before the thread vanished. If 3A keeps asking, tell Voss. I read that line over and over. 3A, not a person, a unit. Like whoever lived in 3A eventually became the problem. When I got home, Aaron and Paul were waiting in the kitchen. They were not pretending this time. Aaron had her phone on the table. Paul stood by the sink, arms crossed, eyes tired. The package was on the counter between them. Empty. Flattened. The words wrong side still visible in black marker. Aaron said Voss texted. Mr. Voss was the landlord. I had only spoken to him once when he gave me the key and told me the building was quiet if people respected boundaries. I asked why. Paul said, because you're bothering tenants. I haven't talked to anyone. Aaron tapped her phone and turned it toward me. The message from Voss was short. We've received concerns that you are disturbing other tenants regarding closed units. Do not access 3B. Do not continue messaging the building chat about closed units. Closed units, not empty. I looked at Aaron. You told me it was empty. It is. Then why did he call it closed? Paul rubbed his forehead. Don't do that. Do what? Pick at words. That was when my own phone buzzed. Unknown number. One line. Closed is safer than empty. I showed them. Aaron did not touch the phone. Paul looked away. I said, you both know this is happening. Aaron's voice stayed low. What we know is that you were told not to bring the hallway in. I didn't bring anything in. Paul looked at the flattened package on the counter. You did. I felt something inside me snap a little. Then tell me what 3B is. Neither of them answered. I said, tell me why people keep saying not to ask. Tell me why my messages get deleted. Tell me why there's mail laundry packages and a light under the door. Aaron stood. Because you keep making it visible. The room went quiet after that. Even Paul looked at her. She closed her eyes for half a second as if she had said too much. Then she picked up the package and folded it once. Throw this away, she said. No. Paul stepped forward. Do not make this your responsibility. Before I could ask what that meant, there was a knock. Not at our apartment door. At my bedroom door. 3 taps. Soft. Patient. All 3 of us turned toward the hallway. My bedroom door was open. I could see part of my bed from the kitchen. No one was there. The knock came again. 3 taps. From inside my room. I walked toward it before either of them could stop me. Aaron said my name. I ignored her. On the floor just inside my bedroom doorway was a key. Old brass. Single key. A paper tag tied to it with thin white string. The tag said 3B. My room was empty. Window closed. Closet open. Nothing out of place except the key on the carpet. I did not pick it up right away. Paul stood behind me, breathing too fast. You didn't touch it, right? It just appeared in my room. Answer the question. I looked back at him. You're scared of a key to an empty apartment. His face tightened. Aaron stepped into the hallway. Give it to Voss. Why? Because it is not yours. The key moved, just slightly, not sliding across the floor, turning, as if someone on the other side of the carpet had twisted it between 2 fingers. Paul backed away. Aaron whispered, no. The key stopped. I bent down and picked it up. It was warm, not body warm, metal left in sunlight warm. But my room had been cold all day. Aaron looked genuinely afraid now. Put it back. Where? She did not answer. From the building hallway outside 3A came a sound. A slow drag, plastic against carpet. The same sound I had heard before. Paul shut our apartment door even though it was already closed. He locked the deadbolt, then the chain. The dragging stopped outside. Right outside, I looked through the peephole. The white laundry basket sat in front of our door, burned handle facing up. Inside, it was a folded strip of blue painter's tape and a piece of paper. The paper had one sentence written on it. Wrong door was a warning. Behind me, Aaron said very quietly, don't let it make you responsible. I turned around with the key still in my hand. What happens if I do? Paul answered before she could. Same thing that happened before. Aaron said his name sharply, but it was too late. I had heard enough to know there had been someone before me, and not enough to know whether they had left. I kept the key for one night. That was the first stupid thing. The second was telling myself I was not going to use it. I put it in the top drawer of my desk, under a stack of pay stubs and an old phone charger. Then I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the drawer, like the key might open it from the inside. Aaron and Paul did not speak to me for the rest of the night. I heard them talking once in the kitchen, too low to understand, then nothing. At 3:12 I woke up, not to a sound, to silence. The kind of silence that feels placed over everything else. The radiator was quiet. The street outside was quiet. Even the old refrigerator in the kitchen had stopped humming. Then my desk drawer clicked. Just once. I did not move. The drawer stayed closed. In the morning I checked it before brushing my teeth. The key was still there, but the paper tag had changed. It no longer said 3B. It said current. I took it to the kitchen. Paul was already there, standing by the sink with a cup of coffee he had not touched. Erin sat at the table with her phone face down in front of her. I held up the key. Did either of you come into my room? Paul looked at the tag and went pale. Erin stood. You need to give that to Voss today. It changed. Then give it to him faster. I looked at her. Why are you scared of an empty apartment? Neither of them answered. That had become the apartment's real language. Silence where an answer should be. I went downstairs before work planning to leave the key in Mr. Voss's mailbox. I did not know which one was his, so I checked the bulletin board near the lobby for a contact number. There was nothing. Just a notice about recycling, a faded pest control schedule, and a paper reminding tenants not to leave personal belongings in common areas. Behind me, the basement door opened. No one came out. I should have gone back upstairs. Instead, I went down. The laundry room lights were already on. Dryer 4 was running. No sound from the machine. No heavy tumbling. The drum turned slowly, almost gently, like there was only one thing inside. On the folding table was the white laundry basket. The burned handle looked worse now. The black mark had spread along the plastic in a thin crescent, glossy and warped. Inside the basket was a white t-shirt folded once. I knew what would be on it before I touched it. 3B, written on the inside collar in black marker. My hands went cold. Under the shirt was a sticky note. He left it at the gas station. I stood there reading it again and again. There was no reason for that sentence to mean anything to me, and still it did. It felt like opening a door in my head and finding a hallway I had already walked through in a dream. A gas station. A trunk. A basket left beside a dumpster. I did not remember living it, but the words carried a weight that did not belong to this building alone. He left it at the gas station, not someone. I backed away from the table. My phone buzzed. Building group chat. A message from Mrs. Danner. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. Then Diane. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. Then an unknown number. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. Then Paul. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. I stared at his name. A second later, another message from Paul appeared privately. I didn't send that. Then it vanished. In the group chat, my photo of the basket appeared. I had not taken a photo. The image showed the white basket on the folding table from above. The t-shirt was folded inside. The burned handle faced the camera. The message under it was from me. Does anyone know why this is here? It was deleted almost instantly, removed by building admin. Then the group chat filled with the same sentence again. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. People leave laundry stuff everywhere. The dryer stopped. The room went quiet. From upstairs, somewhere above me, a door opened. Not loud, just the soft pull of old hinges. I took the key from my pocket. The tag said current. When I got back to the third floor, Aaron and Paul were in the hallway outside 3A. Not inside the apartment. Outside. They were standing several feet away from 3B, both of them facing the door like people waiting outside a hospital room. Aaron saw the key in my hand. No, she said. Paul whispered, you went downstairs. I said the basket was there. Aaron looked at the floor. Paul said, it always is when it wants someone to pick. The door to 3B was open, not wide, just a few inches, enough to show darkness beyond it, enough to make it impossible for anyone to keep calling it empty. From inside, a voice said, wrong door. It was soft, close, not echoing from deep in the unit. Right behind the door, Aaron shut her eyes. Paul stepped back. I walked forward. Aaron grabbed my arm. If you open it, you are responsible. I pulled free. For what? She did not answer, so I used the key. It fit perfectly. The lock turned without resistance. The door opened inward. There was no apartment on the other side. No kitchen, no living room, no bedroom window facing the alley, no bathroom light, no smell of food or dust or old radiator heat. Just a room. A large, empty room that could not fit inside the building's floor plan. The walls were beige, like every apartment wall I had seen that week. The carpet was the same old yellow-brown as the hallway, but the room had no windows and no doors except the one I had opened. On the floor were objects, not scattered, arranged. A white laundry basket with a burned handle, a blue toothbrush and a clear cup, a roll of blue painter's tape, a stack of printed calendar pages, a plastic food container labeled Room C, a cracked mug handle wrapped in a wet bandage. None of it was placed like evidence. It was placed like supplies. In the center of the room was a folding chair. On the chair was a clipboard. I stepped inside. Behind me, Paul whispered, "Don't," but he did not follow. The top page on the clipboard had a title printed in plain black letters. New tenant intake. Under it were checkboxes. Noticed hallway noise. Asked about laundry. Posted in group chat. Received key. Entered 3B. All were checked except the last one. As I read it, a black mark appeared in the final box. Slowly, like an invisible pen had touched the paper. Entered 3B. Checked. The door behind me clicked. Not shut, just clicked, like a lock deciding it had enough information. For a few seconds I could not move. The room behind 3B was too quiet. Not normal quiet, not the kind you get when people stop talking. This was deeper than that. It felt like the room had absorbed sound before I made it, like even my breathing had to ask permission to exist there. I turned around. The door was still open. That should have helped. It did not, because the hallway outside was wrong. I was not looking into the third floor hallway anymore. The one with the old carpet and flickering light was gone. Through the open door, I saw the inside of 3A, our kitchen, our narrow hall, the bathroom door with the bad latch, my bedroom door at the end. Erin and Paul stood in the kitchen. They were not surprised. Erin's hands were clasped in front of her. Paul looked sick but not shocked. They looked like people watching something happen exactly the way they had been afraid it would happen. I stepped toward the doorway. "What is this?" Erin said. "You weren't supposed to answer it." I opened a door. "No," Paul said quietly. "You accepted it." I looked back at the clipboard. Under new tenant intake, a new line had appeared. "Ready for reassignment?" The words were printed cleanly, as if they had always been there. I walked out of 3B, or tried to. The moment I crossed the threshold, the apartment seemed to shift. Not physically, nothing bent or stretched, but the distance changed. The kitchen felt farther away than it should have. My room looked smaller. The hallway felt like it belonged to someone else. Erin did not move. Paul whispered, "Same thing that happened before." "Before what?" He looked at Erin. She shook her head. I said, "Who was before me?" Neither answered. From somewhere behind me, inside 3B, the dryer sheet smell returned. Warm laundry, burnt plastic, old detergent. I ran, not gracefully, not bravely. I ran past Erin, and Paul grabbed my keys from the hook by the door and left 3A without my coat, my laptop, or my boxes. Paul said my name once. Erin did not. The third floor hallway was back when I opened the apartment door. 3B was closed. No light underneath. No basket outside. For 1 second, I thought I had escaped something by moving fast enough. Then I looked at the brass number on the door behind me. 3B, not 3A. I was standing outside 3B. My key was in my hand. Across the hall, the door to 3A was closed. I backed away until I hit the stairwell wall. The building was silent. No one opened a door. No one asked if I was okay. No one came out to see why I was standing barefoot in the hallway at almost 4 in the morning, shaking with my keys in my hand. That was when I understood the worst part. It was not that nobody heard. It was that everyone knew not to. I left the building with nothing but my phone, wallet, and keys. I slept in my car until sunrise, then checked into the cheapest motel I could find near the highway. I sent Mr. Voss an email saying I was terminating the lease immediately. I wrote too much. I mentioned 3B, I mentioned the basket. I mentioned the group chat and the key and the room that did not fit inside the building. He did not reply. Erin did not reply. Paul sent one message at 11:06 a.m. "You should not have used the key." Then he blocked me. For 3 days I stayed away from the building. I bought new clothes from a Walmart. I told my new job there had been an emergency with my housing. I slept with every motel light on and still woke at 3:12 each morning already sweating. On the 4th day, mail arrived at the motel. I had not given that address to anyone from the building. The envelope was forwarded through USPS. My name was printed clearly. No return address. Inside was a copy of my lease. The first page looked normal until I reached the tenant section. My name had been crossed out under Unit 3A. Under it, written in black marker, was 3B. Not moved to 3B, not reassigned to 3B. Just 3B, as if that was my name now. I kept reading even though I did not want to. Below the crossed out section was a new addendum. Current occupant acknowledges closed unit status. Current occupant agrees not to disturb hallway tenants. Current occupant agrees not to answer wrong door inquiries. There was no signature line, only a date. The date was tomorrow. I went online and searched the building. The listing for my old room was already up. Room available in quiet shared apartment, respectful roommates, no drama. Great for young professional, utilities split evenly, laundry and building. The photos were bright, brighter than the apartment had ever been in real life. Kitchen clean, bathroom clean, my room empty bed gone walls bare. The hallway photo showed the door to 3B beside 3A, closed and ordinary. I zoomed in. At first I did not see anything. Then I saw the basket. It was at the far end of the hallway near the stairs. White plastic, small black burn mark on one handle, almost easy to miss. Inside was an envelope. I zoomed until the image blurred. The name on the envelope was mine. The unit line was not 3A. It said, current occupant 3B. I closed the laptop, then opened it again. I do not know why. Maybe because some part of me still believed that if I looked carefully enough, I could understand the rule. Maybe if I understood it, I could undo it. Maybe if I found the right proof, someone would have to admit I was not crazy. The listing had a contact form. I almost filled it out. I almost wrote a warning for whoever came next. Do not ask about 3B. Do not touch the basket. Do not use the key. Do not believe them when they say it is empty. But I did not send anything, because I knew how it would look. A stranger messaging about a rental they no longer lived in, saying the empty unit was not empty, saying the laundry basket mattered, saying everyone in the building was lying. I would become the thing people warned each other not to start. So I closed the listing. For a while, that was the end, except it was not. Every few weeks, I checked again. I told myself it was practical. I wanted to know if the room rented. I wanted to know if the listing disappeared. I wanted to know if my name ever showed up anywhere it should not. The room in 3A always got rented again. Sometimes the photos changed. New bedspread, different desk, a plant in the window, a jacket over a chair, small signs that someone new had moved in and started making the room theirs. But the hallway photo stayed almost the same. 3A, 3B, old carpet, flickering light, and the basket. Each new listing, it was a little closer to the door. First near the stairs, then halfway down the hall, then outside 3B. The last time I checked it was in front of 3A. Burned handle facing up, envelope inside, no visible name, but I did not need to zoom anymore. I knew who it was for. I never went back. I never contacted Aaron. I never tried to get my things. I changed my number twice. I moved to another state. I stopped using laundry rooms in apartment buildings. I still check every hallway before I unlock my door. And every time someone tells me an empty room is just storage, or a sound is just pipes, or people are only trying to keep things calm, I believe them less. Because I know what can happen when everyone agrees to the same lie. The room does not have to keep you trapped. People do that part for it. Some homes do not become dangerous all at once. They become dangerous when people get used to explaining things away. A missing mug, an extra toothbrush, a basket in the hallway, a room that no one admits is occupied. Maybe the scariest part is not what was behind those doors. Maybe it was how many people already knew and still chose silence. Different apartment, same rule. Do not be the one who notices first.